Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 284th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings, and joining me this evening we have Ozzy Smith, Gabe Lewis, and Andy Patterson. Some good fights over the weekend. We were just looking on the schedule as well for next week. There's plenty of stuff going on, bit of Kovalev, bit of Billy Dib, bit of next-gen action. But there's only one place we will start tonight, WHYTE against Parker. Fancied WHYTE to do the job. We got a little bit of stick, a little bit of banter on the old Twitter from the boys saying, can't believe you're picking WHYTE to beat Parker. But, you know, he did it. He did the job, old Dillian White. Let's have a look at the score, shall we? 114, 111 on Phil Austin's card. 113, 112. Real tight one there from Steve Gray. And a 115, 110 from Christoph Fernandez. Forget about the titles. Silver heavyweight title, vacant WBO international title. Absolute bullshit, Andy. But he will be going on towards world level. And as we said last week, compared to some of the other guys who are knocking around on the world scene, I mean, you know, he might just deserve it, I suppose. But talking about the fight itself, everyone was going on about the Derek Chisora Carlos Takam fight on the undercard, which was a really decent scrap, ending up with Derek knocking his man out, which we will get onto later. Do you think WHYTE against Parker was the best heavyweight fight of the night? Well, where would you lead on the excitement scale of the main event?
Excitement scale, I'll probably go for 8, considering how the fight ended. I just wish Parker maybe kind of put on a wee bit more into it. But I don't know if he was actually affected by that clash of heads in the second round. It did seem to kind of be a bit off in the third. Cause in the first, he was really good with the jab, Parker. Really kind of causing WHYTE problems with it. Obviously, he was a light to box. Obviously, you know, just the sheer size of WHYTE throwing those kind of wild punches, and that obviously it's going to cause him problems. But you know, a lot of people were saying they're disappointed that he never kind of stepped in until it was too late. But you got to get him as well, as he took a monster. Was it the 9th round with the left hook? That was a monster shot. I really thought he was out. I thought he was gone, but you know he was up straight away, and he ended like a warrior. So fair play to him. And as for Dillian White, we did say last week actually if he did win this fight, no shenanigans and stuff like that, so to speak, and he was more than deserving for a world title fight. I did read today actually that Wilder still hasn't got his next fight arranged yet. Brazil, he's been told that's a mandatory. It's to happen by the end of the year. So if it's a quick turnaround, Wilder, I don't know why he wouldn't fancy that fight straight away. If he's wanting to give him if he's want to go to Hearn, Hearn's going to give him, what was he offered him, 15 million to fight WHYTE previously? Or he was still giving that. But
As much as that, was it really?
I can't remember if it was that much. Was it 15 million?
Sounds a bit on the high side. Not disagreeing with you, I don't know.
5.
Was it 5 million?
5, 15 to fight Joshua, 5 to fight Dillian White.
So 5 million, you know, take that fight. I would take that fight, but you know, as a main event, I would go for about an 8. It was a really good turnaround fight, actually. Really good performance by WHYTE. At times, still wild with shots and stuff. More accurate punchers would take him out. I really would fancy Wilder to actually beat him. He would be just too patient for me. He would land that right hand at some point. But as for WHYTE, you got to get them as coming leaps and bounds and that. But at times he was wild with his shots and stuff. As for Parker, as people say, we were disappointed he never kind of like threw it in, you know, until kind of like the very last round. And,
where did it go wrong for him, really, Andy? He looked small, you know, didn't he? I don't know.
I don't know if remember we were talking about the weight. He started camp late. He started camp 10 pounds lighter, I think it was. He had 6 weeks for the fight. I really don't know. Maybe he was flat. I really don't know what it was, but he just. We've seen it in previous fights. We saw it with Andy Ruiz and stuff. He never really kind of had it in him. He really kind of like, you know, go in and finish it. Ruiz causing problems. You know, he elected the boy. I just don't know if he's a guy who just does enough to lose. That's all it is, and he does it with a smile on his face, I suppose. You know, I agree with what Bellew was saying there last night as well as about him. You know, WHYTE was getting dirty with him at times, pushing up against the ropes. You know, hitting and holding and stuff like that. But you know, Parker wasn't getting nasty back with him. And that was probably kind of one of the things he was saying, just, you know, get in there. But in the 12th round, I'm going to hold my hands up and say, in that 12th round, I was screaming the fucking Houston. Wife nuts away this weekend, so I was actually, you know, hoosting myself, a few cans and stuff. It was absolute carnage in that 12th round. I was going absolutely mental. But just left it too late. That's all it was. Just left it far too late.
Ben Thorns was in touch this morning. He said, not a question as such, but Bellew and Frotch on the TV last night. Fucking hell, says Ben. I had WHYTE by 1. So if Ian John Lewis spots the non-knockdown, it's a draw. Bellew had WHYTE by 10 going into the 12th. and is then on his feet celebrating that White hears the final bell. Now, Ben goes on to say something that I've mentioned in the past, actually, about Sky's approach to punditry, I suppose. It's disgraceful, says Ben. Imagine the outrage if Gary Neville was celebrating goals for Man United on Sky. It's awful. Sky needs some decent commentary. Channel 5 got Al Bernstein over. That would be perfect, in my opinion. Well, I mean, listening to Paulie Malignaggi on Showtime last night, love him or hate him as a fighter, and I wasn't his biggest fan. We've mentioned this before. Me and Ozzy have had the discussion. Malignaggi is everything I think you need to be as an analyst and a pundit. Everyone might, a lot of people might not agree with that, but I think Malignaggi is absolutely perfect, and he puts the likes of Froch and that to shame. That's just the way it is, unfortunately, with the boxing. Ozzy, let's go on to the main event with you. White against Parker. One thing happened later on in the evening on the Garcia Easter undercard that me and you were both mentioning, the impressive knockout that Luis Ortiz put in against Mr. Cajano. Now, assuming that Ortiz is perfectly clean and there's no dodgy dealings going on, which we can assume there isn't. It was an excellent knockout and real highlight, real stuff. The fact that Parker struggled to a boring 12-round decision over Cajano, do you think it just puts the two Parker's levels possibly into perspective?
Quite possibly, yeah. I mean, in reality, if you go over his past few fights, now you've got White, Joshua, Fury, Cajano. He's not really set the world alight in any of them, has he? He's probably had the most success in the Dillian White fight, and that was probably in a couple of rounds at the start where I thought he boxed well, and then round 12 where he finally let his hands go and caused White all sorts of problems. Joshua, he had referee problems which didn't let him do the work on the inside. I thought he lost the Huey Fury fight, and the Cajano one, in my opinion, was just a glorified sparring session. It was absolutely horrendous. But Bellew made a couple of good comments, and whilst he was cheerleading at times, he was right. At times, Parker, it was rather a subdued performance, if anything. A guy probably thinking, I've got 6.5, 7 million quid in the bank here at time. What am I doing here? I don't need to be roughed up. I'm set for life already. But when he did let his hands go, and I thought early on, I thought his jab was excellent. And White looked massive in there. He looked really heavy. And he looked a lot bigger compared to Parker as well. But I definitely didn't have it as wide as the Sky Comms had it. I've got to admit, I didn't score it openly, but I did. I thought it was close. I probably had White going ahead in the back end of the fight, and it was a close one. Another 20 seconds in that round 12, and I think it's fair to say that White probably would have been stopped on his feet. I thought Ian John Lewis probably he didn't have the best of fights. I thought he let White get away with a hell of a lot of things, boring him with a head, particularly at the end as well when he was tired. Just little things like holding onto the ropes and things like that, and keeping hold of Parker's arms. It can be called old manning, but at the same time as well, it's taking advantage of the rules, and it bought in precious seconds when White was struggling. But no, Parker, it's difficult to see where he goes, really. I wouldn't be shocked to see a fight with Lucas Brown, probably, in New Zealand or something like that. The loser probably retires. Brown's getting himself in nick now. He uploads quite a lot of videos on his Instagram, and he's really shedded got himself in shape since the White fight. So I won't be shocked to see that next for Joseph Parker, to be honest.
Adam Smith's on the call. Smido, first of all, before I hit you with a question, what about the betting side of things? Where was the value to be had? Did you have any money laid down?
Yeah, I lost a bundle last night. Takam. I backed Takam at 10 to 11. He went off about 1 to 3. Was clearly winning, although Chisora was in the fight throughout, clearly winning, and then bombs away. And I'd done some dough. Went up in smoke as soon as Chisora rattled that right hand on the top of his head. Conor Benn, there's a couple of us chucked fivers and tenors on Conor Benn. I've got no argument in losing a fiver or a tenner there. He's still shit. He's wide open to getting tagged by anyone from Payno's level upwards, really. His gas tank ain't all that great. I think he went to hospital after. He tried and failed with an Ali shuffle. I mean, I know it's something that gets talked about regular on Twitter and that, but Conor Benn, if his name's Conor Smith or Conor Wellings, then he ain't at the O2, and he certainly ain't on pay-per-view. But that's what it is.
He doesn't look too much like me, Smido, so I don't think there's much danger of him being a Conor Wellings. Tell me about the incident in the main event in the second round. There was obviously a headbutt went in. Parker didn't complain all night about anything, even though there were numerous infringements or infractions. Take away what you want from that. But Liam Wynn has jumped in with a question. He said, is there a case for VAR in boxing for specific scenarios, such as determining whether a punch landed or a knockdown or a low blow? Now, I know that the WBC, Smido, did introduce something like this a while ago, didn't they? What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say that WBC did have something like that, only in certain jurisdictions, etc. Would work quite easily. You get to the end of the round, before you put the 10-8, you just have a look if it was a knockdown or not. I mean, it hardly takes any seconds at all, because the replay is already prepared by the time they get to the final bell of that round. Last night, no blame on the referee from my point of view. I don't think he could see it. It was a headbutt followed by a bicep or forearm. There was no punch whatsoever landed. And I'm no mathematician, and I've not spent any effort trying to think about it. But depending on who you listen to, it could have had quite a big bearing on the fight, and we could have been in possible draw territory had that decision been given correctly. With a knockdown, generally, when they occur, it kind of, regardless of what happens in the rest of the round, that person wins 10-8. Fair enough, because scoring a knockdown is a significant thing. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, regardless of how good Parker may or may not have been in that round, he was losing it 10-8. So it can, we need to get him right, because it's a big two or even 3 point swing, isn't it?
Smido, quick one for you actually from Zeconomics. You mentioned Conor Benn earlier doing the Ali shuffle, or a resemblance of it anyway. Is Conor Benn, says Zeconomics, the worst boxer to ever get a push or a bit of hype from Sky Sports?
Probably not, to be honest. There's probably been some others down the line, but the current position where we are with the wild bullshit, yes, probably yes. He is only still young. But as I always mention with this Matchroom and Sky Sports cult, that it's a delivery and expectation. So the expectations for Conor Benn are massively out there, because he is getting on pay-per-view shows. He is quite high up the card. He has got a half an hour special on Sky, The Story, so far, or something along them lines. His talent, what he's done so far doesn't deserve that. Now, if you just let him, a bit like Buatsi, really. We can pick holes in Buatsi's opponents, etc. But a little bit like that is, but we're not getting these programs with Buatsi. We're not getting the interviews on Sky Sports News or the half an hour specials on Buatsi. But they're letting him go about his business as he is, and I think Buatsi will be pretty good when he's fully exposed at a proper level. But it's who gets the treatment, and Conor Benn is someone who so far doesn't deserve the treatment he's getting.
Yeah, it's a shame, obviously, to fight we won't be able to see, but I'd love at this point the way they put a Coley and Chamberlain in together to see like a Buatsi Anthony Yard. It'd be perfect, grudge match. They're from the same city, two big punchers, and unfortunately, it's not something we'll be seeing. I saw Buatsi, I didn't see Buglione. I'm assuming he won. I saw Ben. Who else was on the card? Katie Taylor. Not really too much to that. I don't know. We'll come to you as well, Smid, on the rest of the undercard in a minute. We've got Rapping Rob Kelly.
Fowler, maybe. You forgot about Fowler's elite
Don't
level.
forget about elite finish over Craig O'Brien. We'll be coming to that. Andy. Don't worry. Housewives' favourite Rob Kelly's on the call. We'll be coming to him shortly. Before we do so, Gabe. I know Gabe saw the Top Rank card. That all would be covered. I didn't even know Christopher Diaz had lost until about 10 minutes before the pod started. I forgot all about that fight. Gabe, tell me about the heavyweight encounter between Dillian Whyte and Joseph Parker. More to the point, Gabe, tell me where each man is going to go from here. Parker has got a lot of money in the bank. He's got 2 losses on the resume. Does he really want it anymore? Is he going to go back down to New Zealand and fight maybe the likes of Lucas Brown in a sort of grudge match or something? And as for Dillian Whyte, I wouldn't say the world was his oyster, but he's in a hell of a strong position, Gabe. I mean, possibly the Joshua rematch could be coming on the horizon. If Joshua gets past Povetkin, if we expect him to do, gets Jarrell Miller out the way, you could see Whyte against Joshua too. Where do both men go from here, Gabe?
Well, I think Parker's going to try to keep competing. I just don't think he's going to do very good, to be honest with you. I mean, he just, from what I'm watching so far, he just looks sluggish. I don't think there's any reason for a guy like him to be getting beat by a guy like WHYTE, period. Especially whenever I think of some of the things that he's capable of doing that we've seen him do in other fights. Now, again, I mean, the opponent has to be considered, so I think that that's part of it. But I mean, why is he not going first? Why is he not punching first? Why is he letting WHYTE get off first? I mean, he keeps his hands low. He could be so much better than he is. He really could. I think he could. He's not, from everything that I've seen, he's not what he was last night. At his best, he should be able to move. He's not going to ever be a huge puncher, but he's not slow to the point that you can see his punches coming from a mile away. So get the footwork going, get the footwork in order, and then move a little bit. I mean, Price, he looked heavy to me last night. I don't know if it was just me, but he looked a little bit bigger than he has been. I just didn't think he looked good. Just not a big fan. But I suppose he'll keep competing and beat some guys that are trying to crack their way into the scene. And if the belts get split up, he may fight for one of the belts again at some point. But at this point, I think he needs to go back to the drawing board and see what's there, because he just didn't look in it last night. And like I said, there's no reason for him to be the guy that doesn't get off first. I mean, that's going to be one of his things that he needs to do as a guy that doesn't have as much power, is to try to be first. So I was disappointed. I thought it would be a little bit better, but then again, I wasn't expecting the world. So maybe going back to New Zealand, to spending some time and seeing what he wants. He may take a little stretch off now. WHYTE, I mean, he is what he is, but he's, like you said, in a good position. So I think it would be interesting to see where he goes next. For Joshua, I mean, what else is there left to do after he beats Sasha, if he can beat Povetkin? I'm hoping that Povetkin just smashes him to bits. But I don't think that's going to happen. So if Joshua wins, maybe Joshua fights Jarrell Miller. The next maybe plausible step would be for WHYTE, depending on how brave he's feeling, how much balls he's got to try to fight Luis Ortiz. So I think the match is going to be made somewhere in the three between Miller, Ortiz, and WHYTE. And I think it'll probably be Miller and WHYTE, I was guessing, which would leave Wilder maybe with a rematch with Luis Ortiz, maybe not. It just kind of depends on what happens, how everything shakes out. But I think it's good. I think there's some options out there for him. I think WHYTE obviously is in the, I would say in the top 5 of the heavyweights in order of where he can go next and what's available next. I mean, I think, he's definitely got the chance at getting the Wilder fight or the Joshua fight next out of anybody else. I don't think Luis Ortiz is right there to have that fight yet. Which he got a pretty raucous crowd reaction last night. The crowd sounded pretty good. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of just up in the air. It just kind of depends on what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, mixed reactions in the chat. White is bang average, said one of our contributors, and Parker is stunk the place out. I think Sonny Fulton was saying, so they're not too impressed by what they're seeing there. Danny Young was in touch. He said, does anyone rate Gareth A. Davis as a supposed boxing pundit? The made-up trash I've heard from him in recent weeks makes me want to hurt him badly. He must infuriate genuine boxing writers. You know what I'll say about him, Danny? The likes of Gareth A. Davis, he can clearly string a sentence or two together so he can write, and it's persistence and availability. What he does is he gets everywhere. He's the type of guy who goes up and down the West Coast around the boxing and the MMA scenes, and he puts himself there, and newspaper columnists and newspapers and entities and whatever will use him, because he's there and he's a freelancer, and I suppose he's just working away. That's the way it works in this business. He's persistent and he's available, so that's why Gareth A. Davis gets on all these outlets. I mean, can you begrudge him? I don't really know, Rob. I know you're probably not too interested in that. Tell me about White against Parker. Was White too heavy? Was Parker too light? What about Parker's trainer, actually, Rob? Kevin Barry. A few guys in the chat saying he should maybe leave Barry. I don't know whether that is so much the problem as what can you really do with a guy like Joe Parker? He seems to have found his ceiling. Seems like a nice guy. Do you think maybe Teddy Atlas putting up the firework up his arse after about round 8 last night would have made a difference?
Well, I think it's just not in his nature. Like, I don't think Joe Parker has a killer instinct, like, or a mean streak necessarily. He doesn't seem to want to let his hands go, like. So I don't know if a new trainer would obviously want him to get more active, but I don't even know if that makes him a better fighter if he's more active. Like, he's bang average, like. But I think last night, I don't know if this point's been made already because it's just jumped on, but I think last night kind of shows up where AJ is at, like, you know what I mean? Because Chisora went and smashed up Takam, who gave AJ a bit of trouble, certainly raised some stamina issues and had a kind of dubious stoppage. And Parker stunk the place out, taking him the distance, but he couldn't drop him or hurt him badly, like, in the fight. Maybe he dropped him, but he couldn't hurt him badly in the fight. And White did that, like, with cracking left hook after a sloppy uppercut from Parker. So he was there for the taking. If
the same left hook, Rob, that White had hurt AJ with as well to continue.
Yep. So, like, he, but we're gonna get that. Like, you mark my words, we're gonna get that next. Like, if AJ gets past Povetkin, the next move is White AJ 2, and in a way, I can't kind of begrudge Dillian White. I've been very critical of him at different times because of some of the stuff he says about himself. But I understand he's putting himself and he's put himself in that position now where he's like Sky Golden Boy, like he's Mr. Pay-Per-View, isn't he? Like, so worse guys than him have had a crack at a world title. So I suppose I wouldn't begrudge it. But there's talk of him versus Chisora too. Again, I don't think that's a fight he'll want. I think he will want the world title shot. And I'd say Eddie says he's going to make him offer for Chisora for Wilder, but I don't know what way they're going to go. I'd say AJ 2 possibly.
Yeah, I think if White had a loss last night, then they would have stuck him in the rematch with Chisora. But the fact that he got the job done, he'll be looking onwards and upwards. To be honest, Mido, did you want to add something in there?
Yeah, I agree with what you said about he's going to be looking away from Chisora. As of last night, I just thought it was funny. Chisora, Edward, celebrating with Chisora like he was the equivalent of it, friendly with Tony Bellew. Do you know what I mean? Like, Chisora's a bit of a nomad when it comes to promotional outfits, and he does his own thing. And I think he'll probably continue to do his own thing. But fuck me, Chisora was a lot better last night than I was expecting. Really was.
Really, he was getting outboxed.
Of course he was. No, absolutely. Chisora was losing the fight, and he was doing it in somewhat of a lazy manner, from the ropes, trying to nick rounds. Absolutely, 100% agree. But that was still more than what I thought I was going to get from Chisora. I going into last night thought Chisora was a shot fighter. I thought that for some time, but he's clearly done. More, this is a fella who's lost on Monaco cards against fringe European level people. Takam is at least a level or two better than fringe European level, obviously. Chisora lasted a lot longer than what I thought. He was fitter than what I was expecting. I'm still not saying he's the fittest in the world, but he was the better version of Chisora than I was expecting.
Against your expectations, you said, Mido.
Yes. Hence why I was like heavily involved in Takam. Takam came out throwing bombs, did it for quite a while, and I said to my mate, if it's a contest of gas tanks, then Takam's going to win that contest. But then, Chisora's just found that right hand from pretty much nowhere. Fucking fair play to him. Fair play, to be honest. I mean, he's got a lot of losses on his card. He's been in with pretty much everyone that's crossed his path. He's put himself right back in the picture. I mean, do I expect him to get beat against a similar level to Takam next time when his head's probably not quite in it and he's not as desperate for one last payday? Probably, yeah. But yeah, he's put himself right back in it. On Dillian White, I just think that I've always been a skeptic of him, to be honest. But I think his footwork's shocking. He didn't throw a straight right hand all night. And I've been saying to my pals at work for some time, and I've reminded them again this week and last night, I can throw a better right hand than Dillian White. Like, he just don't throw it. He just doesn't do it. The only one he's got really in his locker is the one that, like Chisora, the overhand looping from fucking a different postcode right hand. Obviously, he landed some thunderous left hooks, and that's what put him down. That was a great knockdown of Parker. And yeah, White's got the job done, but he's still bang average. I think he's the definition of bang average.
They all are.
I don't think Dillian White doesn't do anything at all exceptional. He doesn't even do anything, very, very well. I think Wilder runs through most of those guys. All of those guys we saw last night.
But this is where we're at, like with the heavyweights. It's like they are so bad. Like the standard of that are so bad. Like Derek Chisora, 8 losses. Like Carlos Takam's been beaten by everybody when he's gone up in opposition. Like, you know what I mean? One of his best results is a draw with Mike Perez. He probably got. It's just like this is trash. Like outside the top 3, good fights. But I'm taking that away from the fights. A bit more dramatic than I thought of the play out like last night with the knockdowns and stuff. But these are B-level fighters.
B-level fighters. Probably C.
You get this, though, don't you, though, Rob? Because look, you had Michael Grant against Lennox Lewis a few years ago. Damon Reed against Herbie Hyde. Michael Bent against Herbie Hyde. It happens, doesn't it?
The thing is, you got to remember as well as those 2 heavyweight fights last night, they made Hearn walk out there like walking on water.
Yeah.
He walked like a god there last night because of the 2 fights delivered for him.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. I mean, like they were way more dramatic, but it's like if he's not even hiding what he's doing anymore, because he's been saying all along he wanted 2 more fights for Joshua before Wilder, so he's got his Povetkin one, and now he's lining up the White rematch, like, and Wilder.
They've been lining it up for some time, and
exactly. But now doing it like
fueled that more,
it's falling into place for him, like so.
Smith, what was that stat you tweeted out earlier on there about pay-per-views against regular Sky shows?
Yeah, so friend of the pod, Dale Nichols, has been talking about it a lot. He's the man with all the stats. But by the end of September, i.e. when Joshua and Povetkin has happened, we will have had 5 Saturday night Sky cards and 4 pay-per-view cards this year. So by the end of September. So I think the score is currently 4-3. So we've had 4 Saturday night cards and 3 pay-per-views to this date as we stand right now. There's been absolutely no live boxing on Sky during June or July, which I think is shocking. I know July we start to go into the holiday period. People are saying, it was worth every penny last night. I've said all along the main event. I've got no problem with the main event last night. It's a good fight. It's a good fight. They're at a similar level, no problem. But it's not pay-per-view. I mean, we've said that all along. You can't. These guys who want to measure how good the pay or if it was value for money after the event, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You measure it before the event, because guess what? That's when you make the purchasing decision. You don't look on Twitter and say, "Oh, absolute war on Chisora." "Oh, quick, let's fucking tune in now and I'll watch it." 30 minutes behind everyone else. It don't work like that. But customers, which we are, well, probably not us, but customers, which the casuals are, have to judge the value of the pay-per-view before the event, not after. I mean, if you get lucky with 2 absolute bomb burners at fights, then like you say, Eddie's going off smug as fuck there. But people saying it's well worth the money. If there's a day when the fixture list comes out and you have, which happens sometimes, you have the Manchester derby and the North London derby on the same day, you don't pay fucking more money for it just because they land on the same Sunday and you can fit them within 5 hours of each other. Fuck off! Like, you're paying your Sky subscription. I think just off the top of my head, I have the full package TV only. It's about £60 a month. Like, what have I got? I've had no boxing at all in June or July. But yet on all the advertising, and when you see the, bus stops or pubs that say Sky Sports Live here, Anthony Joshua's front and centre of that. He hasn't been on Sky Sports since, I think, was it 2015? I think he fought Dillian White in 2015. That was his first fight on pay-per-view, and he hasn't been off it since. It's just, and then we would say, it was, to start with, it was, right, we're going to use the money from pay-per-view money. We're going to use that for and reinvest into the Saturday night cards. That clearly isn't happening. That is not an opinion. That is a fact. It's not happening, is it? I mean, we've had 4 Saturday night cards this year and 3 pay-per-views. It's not happening. It's simply not happening. So, and then I know we've mentioned this before, but now with pay-per-view, we're in a situation whereby they get the date set, i.e. the 28th of July. They get the date set and then they try and build a card around it. It shouldn't be like that. It should be what it was traditionally for, was to make fights that would otherwise be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to make without pay-per-view. And when that happens, and we end up with a situation, I know it was a mismatch in terms of weights, but when that happens in terms of Golovkin and Brook, no problem. No problem. Or when it happens in terms of Klitschko and Joshua, again, no problem. But when we're setting a date and then working to that, it's the wrong way. It's the wrong way to go about it. There's no reason at all why, because they've sold however many tickets they've sold at the O2. I mean, we can dispute how many they actually sold, but say they sold 20,000 at the O2. I've got no problem with last night being Conor Benn against Paynu, Katie Taylor, and then just whacking Parker and White on. I've got no problem with that. But what they try and do, because it's got a pay-per-view tag, they try and make it 6 or 7 hours entertainment, a name here and a name there, and chuck George Groves in, and flirt with Chris Eubank Jr. I don't mind if it's a Saturday night card like HBO do in America. Really, just come on at 10 o'clock, give me a couple of fights, make them good value, and I'll fuck off. Like, I don't need to see Anthony Fowler or Frank Buglioni or Dave Allen in shit fights. I don't need to see them. So it's just that's just the mess that we're in, and we're now working to, like I say, we're working the wrong way around. We're setting the pay-per-view dates long in advance. This July date would have probably been decided at the back end of last year when Sky were doing the budgeting. Shouldn't work like that.
Yeah, I mean, regarding Dillian White, I would say I don't think that he should necessarily be pay-per-view, but in the current context of the heavyweight division, I wouldn't necessarily begrudge him a shot at a title, given that, you're going to say, oh, he can't have one, but who's, Dominic Breazeale can have one, or Jarrell Miller can have one. I mean, he's no better or no worse, probably better, in fact, than most of those guys.
The dangerous thing what we've done is, Steve, is we've now paid Dillian White X amount of money, however much it may be, and we've now let him be a pay-per-view man headlining. What's he going to do next time? Is every Dillian White fight pay-per-view now?
No, as I said before, I think Dillian White ended up in pay-per-view because Hearn couldn't get him a world title fight. And, I think Hearn has been mentioned as well, something about do with WBC mandatory, how there was information going to come out about that, whatever it was. But he's just remember he had the IBF, was it the Pulev deal?
Yeah.
Pulled out of that one as well. So this was obviously the sweetener. He couldn't get him that, so he made him, gave him an extra, how much ever it was on top of it. For the
but you know what, Andy? I'm not so sure that he came at it from an angle of, I better give Dillian White a sweetener. What's Dillian White going to do without Eddie, realistically? I think it's more to the fact that Eddie has so many pay-per-view dates that he has to fill, and he had to somehow turn somebody into, not a star, but, able to fill them. I don't think that he's coming from this of an altruistic point of view. He's trying to get Dillian White paid. I think he needs to fill a pay-per-view date by hell or by high water. He ain't going to do it with Kell Brook, is he? He can't do it with Joshua because he's only having so many fights a year. Who the hell else is he going to fill these pay-per-view dates with? And then he's built Dillian White into that position. I could be wrong, Andy. I don't know.
No, you're right enough. I mean, the old question is, again, it's the stable. Is it strong enough? It's not really strong enough. He hasn't got the names, and he's really obviously trying to kind of push this. But we all know it's going to happen in April. Obviously, Joshua's got the fight arranged. That's obviously if they're not looking past Povetkin just now, but it's going to be White, obviously, the rematch, isn't it? In April, it's going to be. It's going to be the White rematch. But
I don't think Eddie gives a shit whether White gets paid or not, to be honest.
Well,
big money.
True.
On pay-per-view.
At the same time, though, he's happy for like some Bellew to get paid. He's happy for like some Crawler to get paid. Burns, because these are all nice guys and stuff like that. End of the day, White's done everything that Hearn's asked him to do, and he's delivered. Right, so he's now in a position now where he potentially could fight Wilder next.
Yeah.
As soon as the next 2 or 3 months, he could fight Wilder if he wanted it. But he says he made heavy weather of that again last night. He got hurt against Elenius, and we have seen him the Tesoro fight. He does make it heavy weather sometimes, but at the same time, he deserves his chance now. But to cover the dates, and that obviously you could maybe stick him on another pay-per-view at the end of the year. But I think if to do that, if you could put White on another pay-per-view, it's got to be a world title fight, and that means it's got to be Wilder.
We had a message in from Mr. R. Slicker, retweet me Eddie. He said, Eddie is fast becoming the go-to man. Surely he is en route to the Hall of Fame at this rate. Sold out arenas, making cash, delivering the fights we all want to see at reasonable prices. America is in for a treat. Good old Mr. R. Slicker coming off with that one. Right, we're running slightly behind our guest. Apologies, I'm going to try and get him or her in right now. While I ring them up, Ozzy, tell me about the undercard. A brief rundown from you. Start me off with Joshua Buatsi, please.
Well, not a lot to say about him, really. A last-minute opponent, a Latvian guy, and he did what was expected. Got rid of him in a round. I'd like to see Buatsi in with probably a Jose Burton or something like that. Eddie Hearn's got a couple of light heavies there.
Plenty of options.
Yeah, he has got options. So forget the Ricky Summers fight now. He obviously picked up an injury. Can't be helped. Match him internally, Jose Burton. They love talking about cash and how much money they've got. So offering him, because that'll be a good fight, that. Derek Chisora, Carlos Takam. What a great fight. I've got to admit, I thought Takam would be too fresh, if anything, but fair play to Chisora. It was a hell of a knockout. Hell of a knockout. And what a good shot. And I think there's only Povetkin who's probably done that to Takam as well. So I think when Chisora's up for it, I think he showed that in the Dillian White fight, that he still has a bit left in the tank. But when he's not up for it, as shown in the Caballel fight, the European title, he stinks the place out. It's like he doesn't want to be there. Katie Taylor, I don't know anything about Kimberly Connor. I'd never heard of her, but I thought with her being on this card, and then I think she's straight back out in America in a couple of months, I thought the opponent can't be that good. I'd like to see Katie Taylor in with Chantel Cameron. I think that's a fight that would actually interest me because I don't know a lot of these opponents, but I know Cameron is probably at world level already. And I think that would be a fight that would interest a lot of people because obviously Cameron is well known, particularly over here as well. Conor Benn, Cedric Payno. I think Ben's going to struggle because, again, I mentioned last night that I was taking the punt on Payno. He's a former European kickboxing champion. He had a full camp for this. He had notice, and he'd hurt Ben a couple of times in the first fight and was robbed out of a draw, to be honest. Again, Ben he looked suspect to the southpaw stance, which Payno came out in. He was tagging him regularly, and I had it a lot closer than what the three judges had it. I think I had it by 4 points, and that was probably the knockdowns. Now, I mean, there was a knockdown, I think it was in round 3 or 4 or something like that. Perhaps one of the worst calls I've ever seen by Howard Foster. How it can be described as a knockdown, I do not know. And it says it all that Sky, 1, didn't show it on replay, and 2, they even agreed with it and said that it wasn't a knockdown either. Ben, I don't think he's big enough for a welterweight. And 2, I just don't think he's got the ability to mix it domestically with these guys. He's in a difficult situation now. He's 13-0. He's just had his first 10-rounder. I think this WBA fringe belt probably gets him a world ranking. So whilst they can all say about the lack of amateur experience and things like that, he's in a situation now where probably he's going to have to step it up because of this belt. For me, he should be still boxing 8-rounders, getting experience that way. But he's in the limelight and he's been pushed into a situation now where there's no going back. So they're going to have to match him carefully, but it's only going to be a matter of time until the board start putting him in for English titles. He's already ducked once, an eliminator. He'll probably get thrown back in there, and I'd probably take 10 or 15 domestic welterweights to beat him. Renaud Garrido, another Frenchman, he's known on the shores over here. I'd take him. I'd definitely take Garrido to beat Ben as well because it was just little bits and pieces he was saying in his interview. He was like, "Oh, it was really hard." That I'm thinking, but 10 rounds are going to be hard. But he seemed disappointed that it was hard. I'm thinking, this lad's got a lot to learn. And while he's on top spots on pay-per-view cards, he's going to have to learn it the hard way. Nick Webb, David Allen. I mean, Webb was cruising, and then I just don't get how he didn't see the right hand from Allen. But it was a highlight knockout. I mean, fair play to Allen. He wasn't in any sort of shape, but he's took his chance now. I think he said he's going to have some time off. So we'll wait and see when he comes back. I'd like to see him in with Dubois. I think it's a fact that Dubois would absolutely destroy him in. But Alan was saying in his interview last night that he can do British level without training because he beat Nick Webb. Well, he was offered the Dubois fight prior to Tony Oka on a full camp. I've no doubt that the Frank Warren team would offer him that fight again, and that's one I'd like to see.
You never rated Webb, did you, Ozzy?
No, I never have. He's another one. He's 12-0, Nick Webb, but he's fought absolute tin cans, Yakov, Gozbich, people like that. I think he's also boxed Harry Miles, and he was a heavyweight. I think he's packed it in now, but he got a dodgy decision then. But basically, I thought he lost the fight. It was at the O2, and he got jobbed on the cards. But yeah, he's fought nobody. So he's built up this 12-0, 13-0 record against tin cans. At least Alan had been in, like, I know he's lost comfortably, but he's had the experience in against the other guys. Webb hadn't, and he's another heavyweight that has been toppled and we probably won't see again. Rest of the card I had no real interest in. Anthony Fowler, Craig O'Brien.
Elite!
Yeah, well, I got a bit of stick off the Fowler Massive this morning.
Elite!
Michael Jennings was Scott Fitzgerald's trainers calling for the fight, and I said Fowler doesn't want none of that. Fowler proceeded to call me an idiot, saying he called him out, and I thought, well, this is boxing, talk's cheap. And I said, I'm looking forward to seeing the fight in December then, because he said he wants the fight. I know I spoke to Michael Jennings before. They'll take that fight, definitely. So I've no doubt we'll see it next then. And that's a great fight, and one I'll take Fitzgerald in. Buglioni in with a nobody. Always was going to be after a pretty devastating KO loss against Callum Johnson. Again, I can't see Buglioni going in with Buatsi. I would rather see Burton doing that, I think. Whilst Buatsi's probably on the level, I can't see Buglioni's team allowing him to drop to that. I'd like to see Buglioni-Anthony Yard. I think that's still a great fight. I think that'd be really entertaining. It'd be all action and one that I'd happily see, and I think it'd be very entertaining for everybody.
Go on then, Andy. Tell us about Fowler.
No, I was just going to ask you. I mean, obviously, he's never made the weight yet, 154. I think he's really shredding himself to make the weight. Actually, I mean, it was a fantastic knockout. I'm just wondering because obviously Fitzgerald's like he's 160, isn't he? I'm sure Fitzgerald's 160, but
oh no, 154.
Is he? I'm sure he's right.
Definitely 154.
Right, so if I can get that fight made, even if it's a catch weight, who really cares? But I want to see Fowler tested now, actually.
Anything else on the card, Andy, for you?
What else was there? Never saw Webb. I saw a bit of Ben. I seen Buatsi this morning. Obviously,
you don't have to talk about any if you don't want to. It wasn't the best, like.
That's fine.
No. Rob, tell me about Conor Benn. I don't know if you saw it or not, but Amir Khan was in touch on a wider point. He said, will Conor Benn surpass his dad? In my view, he lacks the raw power his dad had, and also his chin is very suspect, so I think not. What do you think? Do you agree with Amir?
Yeah. Well, his dad was a hell of a fighter. Like, he was probably the best out of that bunch for me, even though he lost to Eubank and Watson. He had a great career, like big wins against Doug DeWitt, Iran Barkley. The draw fight with Eubank, I thought he probably should have got the nod in that one. And this Conor guy, like, is getting a lot of pressure put on him because of his dad's name. Obviously, that's the same kind of wave of expectation they had on Eubank Jr. Like, I think he's handling it a lot better because he's not as outspoken as Eubank, but he's limited, like, and I think he's learning on the job, and we're seeing a young lad learning on the job, basically, like, with no amateur pedigree, and that's evidenced in his fights, like, and his performances, like. So, he's having trouble with a kickboxer, like, and maybe it's not fair on the guy, you know what I mean? Maybe it's not fair. He's been put in this position, like, and he's like I said, we're seeing him learning on the job, like, so it's really all I can say about him.
No, I completely agree, Rob. Exactly. It's a difficult situation. On the one hand, you can understand why Matchroom and Sky are doing what they're doing. They're obviously trying to use the Ben name as currency, but at the same time, he shouldn't be learning in the limelight quite as heavily as he is. We're watching every single flaw, every wrinkle in his game trying to be ironed out. He just doesn't seem to have the ability, unfortunately. They're saying that he has improved since his debut, so you never know where he might end up. But, I mean, people talking about European level and stuff. I'd be very surprised unless it was one of those WBO European title things. I don't know if Gabe's back. He said he was going to come back. No word on our guest, by the way. It is a female boxer. She's not answering at the moment. We'll hopefully get her on soon. You back with us, Gabe? Gabe, where are you?
Just got back.
Oh, good. Gabe, excellent stuff. Right, Gabe, tell me about this fight in Kissimmee, Florida. Kissimmee is the capital of Florida, apparently. There's a bit of a quiz trivia for you. Christopher Diaz was expected to go to 24-0 and win the WBO vacant super featherweight title, but didn't quite go to plan against this Mexican Masayuki Ito. What went down, Gabe?
Well, he got beat up all night. He did exactly what Parker did. Let his opponent get off first. His opponent landed more clean punches throughout the fight. Head snapping jab, good jab from the young man. Overall, just a really solid technical fight. Diaz's footwork was shit. I mean, that was a big part of it. I think that's probably why I'm on about footwork tonight, which I'll discuss probably a little bit more when we get to the Garcia fight. But he just swings and misses all night, and Diaz, of course. You know, I mean, he landed some punches. I'm not going to make it sound like it was a complete annihilation. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, it was pretty clear to me what happened. I don't know if, you know, from the last couple times I've seen Diaz, I mean, I thought it was pretty evident that he is not the goods. I think I saw a quote from Aram this past week saying that Christopher Diaz is the next biggest thing from Puerto Rico since Cotto, which absolutely isn't true. Last night, though, I mean, there was no question in the outcome of the fight. I mean, he was pretty clear the whole way through. So if you want to go watch the fight, I mean, nothing horrible, but it's a pretty clear fight. So if you know what happened, if we've spoiled that for you, then you may want to not put the time in. But I think I'm going to nominate Aram, too, for that Bellew of the Week. Because the fight, I mean, Diaz, you know, like I said, I think he was fighting, who was the last time out? I can't recall who it was, but that's, you know, I mean, when you watch that last fight, you could see there wasn't that much that was that special, I didn't think. And I think it turned up here. You saw that he wasn't special, and he kind of got whipped around the ring.
They saw an opportunity, Gabe, didn't they, and threw him in and thought he could capture this WBO title. But like you say, you know, I mean, he's knocked out, it was Braulio Rodriguez. Before that, it was Bryant Cruz. And then before that, he was going in against the likes of Jose Estrella, Fernando Vargas, 10 and 11 losses on their record kind of guys. Yeah,
I mean, he just took you know, before that, his record wasn't even really that good. He was fighting guys with 10, 12 fights, a loss here and there. And he never really matured out of it before he went with Braulio. So, I mean, you know, I mean, it was. What do you expect to happen when you step a guy up? Eventually, at some point, he's going to find somebody there who's going to beat him. I mean, it was clear to me that it was going to happen. I didn't think anything special about him anytime I've seen him. I mean, he's obviously must have done something right to get him to position to even be considered fighting for a world title. But I mean, it just didn't go through. And I don't know, I think his level of competition hasn't helped him any. You know, he fought the kind of opponents that, you know, say an Olympic quality fighter, someone who's hot to go big. You know, they fight these guys with, you know, 1-1 or 5-2, you know, those kind of records for maybe 4 or 5 fights. And then they start kind of stepping it up depending on the promoter and all that kind of shit. But I mean, overall it was, you know, what do you expect? I mean, I don't know. It wasn't a big deal to me because it's not like I didn't see it coming. I don't think Diaz is all that great. And last night I thought he got his card pulled and got pretty well handled pretty easily.
Christopher Diaz can maybe become, again, one guy who is at the top of his game right now, and I really enjoy watching him. Real great basics and fundamentals is Mikey Garcia. He beat Robert Easter Jr. last night. Easter was dropped down in round 3. This was on Showtime. Thoroughly enjoyed watching it this morning. We mentioned last week, actually, about Garcia and his ability to notice his opponent's mistakes. And I think the way he worked that jab and got Easter moving off to the side in the third round and then laid the punch in, I think it was the right hand, wasn't it? Straight flush on the chin, knocked him down. Real lovely performance for Mikey Garcia overall. Andy, Garcia, he didn't look comfortable chasing and trying to cut the ring off at times. It was strange watching a fighter of his quality and experience struggling to cut the ring off effectively as Easter moved backwards. But I guess Mikey's only human. I tell you what, sometimes there's a lot of trends in boxing, isn't there? Sometimes we look at guys like Mikey and we say, oh, being fundamentally sound is the way to go. The jab, right hand, Alexis Argello type, and it does serve you well. And then all of a sudden we have a guy like a Roy Jones come along and he throws the basics out the window and he's so athletically beautiful and everybody else then tries to follow his style and they say, oh, we should all be like Jones or we should all be like somebody like that. But there is no one way of boxing, is there? But Mikey Garcia, he has the fundamentals nailed down to a T. If you want to watch a guy who is sound, the basics of boxing, Andy, go and watch Garcia. I love watching him box.
Yeah, but that was again, that's what we discussed last week. Actually, obviously his balance is really good, especially when he's on the inside, when they let his hands go. When he had Easton up against the ropes, he did get rough when he had to, and then try and dig the shots to the body. Even though he was at a disadvantage with the reach of Eastern and stuff, who he was getting through with the jab and that. Again, I really don't know what it was. I don't know if Easter just couldn't get the right hand off, or he just wouldn't let it off. It was just constantly jab and move all night. But fair play to Garcia. Absolutely, impeccable performance by him last night.
He's ringing Andy. Who knows who that could be? Right, who else?
Can I just ask? In regards to Garcia, I've not watched it, but I do plan to do so. Where does this rank for a casual like me? Is Easter right up there and it's a cracking win, or is it more of a takeover fight for a bigger challenge?
It's not a takeover fight, I don't think, Smitho, because Easter's the IBF champion. We spoke about his flaws last week. Ever since he's moved up in levels, Easter, he hasn't been knocking out people as easily as he was before. In fact, he hasn't had a knockout since he won the title, which was a little bit of a struggle against Richard Comey. Some people thought he lost to Javier Fortuna. Some people thought he lost to Denis Shafikov. So he has been struggling at world title level, but he came in, he was in shape, he was tall. He has fought down to the level of his opponents before physically, but he used the jab and he gave Garcia problems at times, but Garcia just showed different levels. So I wouldn't necessarily dispense with this win and say, oh, it means nothing. I think it's a really good win for Garcia, but Easter isn't quite to that level, Smitho, but not quite a ticking over fight. It's a good win for Garcia.
So where's he at now? So he's got 2 belts at lightweight, and who's next?
2 belts at lightweight. He's dropped the belt that he won against Lipinets at 140. He's now talking about moving up to 147 to fight Errol Spence, which would be quite the achievement. I mean, you know what? He beat Lipinets this year. He's unified at lightweight this year. I'm not expecting him to fight Spence at the end of the year, but if Mikey Garcia goes up to welterweight and fights anybody half decent, he's got to be a shoo-in, for maybe fighter of the year, in my opinion, Smid. But I think the fight against Spence, it's a big challenge, but it's folly. Not only is Spence a welterweight, he's absolutely huge for the weight.
That's really Gavin Peso, actually. I mean, they're all saying it. Garcia's saying it. I've seen Chris Walker was saying it for weeks.
I think it'll happen, Andy, yeah.
I really think it will happen, this fight. I mean,
it will.
The end of the year as well. I mean, obviously we want to see Spence more active and stuff. That's one thing you want to see. But as you say, it's a big ask, and see if he does pull it off. And that you got to say it's got to be one of the biggest wins in recent boxing history.
Oh, so I'm just looking now. So I was a bit confused there. So he's won super lightweight against Lipinets, and then he's come back down to lightweight this weekend.
Yep, he's been up and down like a yo-yo.
Yeah, fair enough. Yep, fair play.
Rob, let's go to you on this one. It was a nice fight, actually. I thought Easter showed a lot of talent and a lot of bottle, especially to come back from the knockdown and remain disciplined. I picked him to get knocked out in 6 rounds. So when he got knocked down, I was feeling pretty pleased with myself, as I tend to do. But Easter came back, and in round 9, I thought that was a cracking round. Garcia obviously went on to dominate the 10th with his superior boxing ability. But Easter, Rob, maybe looking to actively survive in the last few rounds. The corner maybe needed to give him a bit of a shake-up, but I think he knew by that point exactly what he was up against, and he wanted to look like a decent loser, if you know what I mean.
Well, the thing about Mikey is he's so accurate that you might give him trouble for a few rounds, but as soon as he times you, he dictates the pace of the fight for the rest of the fight. So he's brilliant at that lead with the jab, with the right hand after it. And then he followed it with the left hook for the knockdown. But he looks for that all the time. He's looking for that in the round beforehand. He's brilliant at moving fellas into position. He's obviously got degree of power. Easter Junior did box better than I thought he would. I thought Garcia would stop him as well. Like, so basically based off the last two performances, like, so he comes away from that with a bit of credit. But Garcia is just head and shoulders above him. Like, and this Errol Spence, where does this come from? Like, we don't want to see the Errol Spence fight. Like, I don't want to see the Errol Spence fight. I mean, it's intriguing from the point of view that he's going up in a weight class and he's taking on a massive challenge to be to win titles up the weights. Like, well, what Errol Spence? Errol Spence is like a 160-pound fighter. Like, and this fella's floating around between 40 and 35. Like, I know has he fought at welterweight already? Did he fight at 147 against Broner? No,
Yeah,
140. 140, was it?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
140. That was 140.
They didn't know if Broner was going to make the weight, Rob, did they?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think it's a strange one. Like, and he didn't look as good up the weight against Broner. Like, I know it was a one-sided fight. Like, but he didn't look as good as he has in other fights against Broner in terms of like being able to put a dent in him. Like, so I don't think that's a fight he could win against Errol Spence. And I'm a big Mikey Garcia fan. I think he's excellent to watch. Like, but I want to see him against Lomachenko. Like, because I think he's the only one there that can possibly give Lomachenko problems. But even after that last night, you'd be looking at ways where you'd say that Lomachenko might just have enough cuteness to kind of pull one on him. But
Loma be working the angles, Rob, wouldn't it? Because at times Easter was just standing there, actually, wasn't it? It was just like a punching bag, just standing there, just covering up sometimes for Garcia to get.
But do you know, Rob, where I think he might give Garcia Lomachenko problems? After Lomachenko beat Linares and he got knocked down by the overhand right, he was on one of the podcasts. I think it was this one Steve Kim does with Mario Lopez, and they're interviewing Lomachenko. Well, exactly. And Lomachenko was saying, that he was very candid, actually. He said the right hand, it's something I've always, I'm paraphrasing here, obviously, had problems with right back in the amateurs, the straight right hand, the straight punch. So maybe Garcia would have a little bit of,
yeah, definitely. He's one of the best. He's one of the best out there, like, at the straight right hand. It's like a laser, like. He never misses, like, and as well as that, last night he showed something different about him. It's like he was fighting with a bit more intensity on the front foot than I've seen him more recently. You know what I mean? It was like he was forcing Easter to work when he didn't really want to work. You know, he was kind of constantly standing there in front of him, walking him down. And I don't know, like, obviously, yeah, Andy, you're dead on. Like, he'd be working the angles, and Garcia can be quite straight, like, but. I don't know. Maybe Lomachenko would have enough cuteness to kind of just get through that fight. Like, but I think it'd be a tough night's work for him. Like, very tough night. Like, and that's the fight I want to see. It's not that I have no interest in this Errol Spence fight, but where does this come from? Like, has anybody got any? Can anyone make sense of this? Like,
must be a money thing. I don't know.
With Garcia might move up. Well, see, be honest, right? I'll try and break it down. I've got some videos somewhere where Robert Garcia has basically said about, it was early on this year, I'm sure it was February time, that the Lomachenko fight, that they were looking at that between the next 3 to 4 years. So you're talking 2021, 22, right? Who wants to be waiting that long? I mean, Garcia's 30. I think Lomachenko's 29, 30, 31. I mean, who wants to wait to see when these guys, who, by the way, are coming up through the weight divisions, they've got a lot of boxing rounds between them, especially Lomachenko and amateur and stuff. It's going to catch up at some point. So you're going to wait till he's diminished. You're going to wait till like 33, 34, do what Floyd did. I mean, I know Floyd's his kind of idol and stuff, but are you really going to take that route? Are you going to wait till a guy who's going to be older and then take the fight? Or maybe take the fight now where I think it will make a wee bit more money, especially when it's prime for prime. You can maybe get 2 or 3 fights out of it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I want to see this fight, but they're on different sides. Like, then they've got the history with Arum and all that. Like, but it's the only fight really. Like, Beltran is not going to give Lomachenko a fight. Like, he's just not. Like, and then Garcia, like, this is just, he beats everybody else in the division. Like, so why not just have these two have it out? Like. Why not? Let's lobby for that. Like, Linares and Lomachenko were able to do it, so why can't Garcia do it? Like, he's saying he's not hanging around for Lomachenko. Like, what's that mean?
Bob Arum angle though, Rob.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose there's the Arum thing too. Although Arum, I think, would bet the house on Lomachenko against anyone. I don't think Arum really thinks anybody can give Lomachenko a fight. Like, and he believes that. Like, so if the money's there for that one, and that's the one they can get the most money for, like, it's really the only one. That the purists, that's left for the purists that we haven't kind of seen over the last few years. You know what I mean? In the wake of Pacquiao and Floyd, we've kind of had the best fight, the best in a lot of cases. Like, You know, it might take a little bit longer to get there, but there hasn't been that outright just ignoring what the fans want, maybe up until this Joshua Wilder thing. Like, so you know, I think we should lobby for this one. Like,
we shall continue to lobby for that one. Joining us on the call now, live from the chat, it's Hamed92. How you doing, Hamed? What do you want to talk about?
How's it going, guys? Big fan, first time caller. I've been on various podcasts, but I'm a big fan of this podcast and New Age boxing. Yeah, I was
Do you think we're too negative? Do you think Hamed? Do you think we're too negative?
No. No, very good. I think British boxing, people again, the wrong end is in a good place, but for hardcore fans, it's not the same. Like 10, 12 years ago, boxing was in a good place, I thought, domestically and for TV wise. Like, I thought Sky Sports was good. You could open it and watch all the fights, and I think there's a couple of fights on ITV, but now I think Hearner's kind of destroyed British boxing, if I'm being honest. That is more for casual fans, because I thought last night's card and the main event especially, that should never have been on pay-per-view. I thought the actual fight wasn't even that good. I'll give Parker a bit of credit for 11 rounds. I thought he was absolutely awful. For the first couple of rounds, I thought he won, and he started off well, but when he got dropped, I think the fight turned into a really bad fight. But I'll give him credit. I thought he kind of redeemed himself, because I thought that was a really good round. But the actual fight for about 10 rounds, I did not think that was a good fight. I think the Chisora Takam fight probably steal the show. But I mean, if that's worthy of a pay-per-view card and a fight, I mean, that speaks enough of volume. I think Chisora and Takam, I mean, that kind of stole the show, I thought. And I think it gives a bad look, because I think I was looking at the comments on Twitter. People are saying that someone said they would have paid 50 quid for this fight, but I think that's a
It's a fucking joke.
I was thinking,
thanking Eddie Hearn for that being pay-per-view last night. Jesus Christ.
that was a joke of a pay-per-view. I think the only guys that pay-per-view is probably Joshua, and I think he was a pay-per-view fighter when he was in his prime. Before that, I'd have to say probably Naz and Hatton. Maybe that's it. And maybe Lennox Lewis before that. But at the moment, I don't think these fights are pay-per-view. I mean, I went to Joshua Takam and Joshua Parker because they're both in Cardiff. That's where I live. And the undercards on that was so bad. I just went to the main event. I didn't even bother watching the undercards. I think I sat through a couple undercards. In one, I think it was Golovkin, Brock, and it was bad. The standard of the undercards are not good. And he thinks he could stack up the undercards and he could warrant the pay-per-view. But if the main event is not a pay-per-view fight, or one of the guys is not a pay-per-view star, you can't really make it into a pay-per-view.
How did you watch it last night then, Hamed?
I got to watch the Park WHYTE fight. I missed the Chisora fight because I had some technical issues with my phone, and one of my brothers, he just, I think, was saying he probably won't. I was going to listen to the radio commentary, and I'm not even lying. I'd rather listen to commentary than open one of these. I think the only good pay-per-view he put on was probably Joshua Klitschko. I think that was a super fight, and the actual fight turned out to be one of the classics, and one of the best fights in the last couple of years, especially for heavyweights. But before that, I went to Golovkin Brock, and I was at Joshua Parker because it was only around the corner, but I wouldn't have opened even that on pay-per-view. Like, I think the card last night, I think there's a lot of names on there, but I don't think there's that many great fights. I mean, Conor Benn, I think he'll be a pay-per-view star in a couple of years, and I think that speaks enough for Matchroom.
Hamed, hold that thought, because we've got a guest on. Stay on the line if you wish. We'll come back to you in a second, okay?
Okay.
I'm delighted that we've got Savannah Marshall on the call. How are you, Savannah?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad at all. We're just talking about the fight last night, the big WHYTE Parker pay-per-view. Did you manage to catch it at all?
Yeah, I did.
What did you think of it?
To be honest, I think Dillian White is like he's come on so much, but I actually thought that Parker would have outboxed him. To be honest, I was a bit disappointed with Parker's performance. I thought he started off fast, but I thought he didn't look nowhere near as fit or as sharp as what I've seen him in the past. The big credit to Dillian White. He done what he had to do. He rushed him up, and he stuck on him, and he deserved the win a lot more than Parker. So yeah, that's what I thought of the fight last night.
Just before we move on to your career, where do you think these guys stand in the heavyweight division overall? Do you think that they might try and put White in a rematch with Anthony Joshua?
I think that White will end up boxing Wilder. I think for Joshua, I think White's more appealing than Wilder. So I think they're going to end up putting White in with Wilder to see how he gets on and how he fares. I think Wilder will beat Dillian White, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Just looking at your career, obviously you're training now with Peter Fury. How did that come about, Savannah, and how's it going on so far?
So I basically started training with Peter last year before my debut, before I went over to America. And it was just through a mutual friend. I'd never ever trained with a pro coach before, and I was mentioning a friend that I knew, and he'd said, "Oh well," it was actually Sam Jones, Joe Joyce's manager, and he'd said, "Oh well, I've got Joe Joyce in Bolton training with Jimmy Fury. Why don't Peter Fury said you can come down and train?" So that's how I'd originally come across Peter, and obviously I trained for me pro debut. I absolutely I love what he teaches, and I love the style he teaches, and it just went on from there.
You mentioned America there. You obviously started off in America. You had your first fight over there. I believe you were something to do with Floyd, possibly. What's the story?
Yeah, I'd signed with Mayweather Promotions, and I'd had my debut on the Mayweather Conor McGregor undercard.
Yeah.
So I initially moved over to America, and I was there for a good 5-6 months, but it just didn't work out for me. So I'd parted ways with Floyd Mayweather. And then I'd come back to the UK, and I wanted to train back with Peter because I felt like an extra with Peter, and like I said, I liked what he trained, so I went straight back to Peter, and I've had 2 fights now with Peter, and I'm looking to box again in September.
And this is going to be Mick Hennessy shows now. Are you signed with Mick? Mick's looking after me, right?
And I've got a bond with Mick, and I trust Mick, and so yeah, I'm with Mick now.
Just to remind our listeners, we've got Savannah Marshall on the call. Delighted to have Savannah with us. She's 3-0 at the moment, making waves. Am I right in saying, Savannah, that you're the only person to beat Clarissa Shields in the amateurs?
Yes, I was. It was back in 2012. I boxed Clarissa. Yeah, and like you said, I'm the only woman that ever beat her, and I think she loses sleep over that, even though it was a good, what's that, 7 years ago.
Is that something in the future, in the pros, maybe you'd be looking to get it on in a rematch?
Yeah, definitely. Clarissa's the champion at my weight. I think she's an IBF and WBA at my weight, and obviously she's in the way, isn't she, for me? So definitely, I want that fight more than anything. At the minute, I'm just wanting, like I said, I've only had 3 bouts now, so I'm wanting to get a good 10 fights before I challenge for a world title for all as well.
So is it going to be super middleweight you'll be campaigning at then?
I'm at middleweight at the minute, but I do want to drop to middleweight because there's a lot more in women's. I think within women's boxing, there's not actually that many women. I think at super middle, I think there might be about 50 in the world, and then obviously at middleweight there's like, I don't know, 50, 60. So by me dropping, there's a lot more opportunities there for me, and I can make the weight, so why not?
Obviously, Katie Taylor was boxing last night on the Sky Show. We've had Chantel Cameron on the show as well. Women's boxing is really coming to the fore at the moment. Do you feel any responsibility as like a sort of pioneer of this new wave of competitors, or do you just look at yourself as a boxer doing your job in the ring?
Yeah, I just look at myself as a boxer. Katie Taylor was a big figure in female boxing. Katie was around when I first got on the international scene when I was like 17, and she was winning everything. And then she multi-women's world champion, 2-time Olympic medalist. So I think Katie is one of the biggest names out there, and I think women's boxing There's a lot to Katie Taylor.
Savannah, we know you're driving and we do appreciate you giving up your time for us this evening. What's your social media presences? I mean, is there any way we can follow you on Twitter or whatever?
Oh yeah, I am on Twitter. I don't actually do that myself, but I'm on Twitter. But I'm more on Instagram. I'm more for the photos, so I think it's S Marshall 1991.
If people search for you, they'll be able to find you.
Yeah, that's the way. Yeah.
So just finally, then we're looking maybe September. Has there been any? How many rounds has been mentioned? Any opponent names, or are you just waiting to hear?
At the minute, I'm quite fit. I'm really fit, and Peter makes sure super fit. So for me, as a women only box 2-minute rounds.
Yeah.
Whereas I prefer threes. I spar threes. I train threes. I'm fit enough to do 10-2s anytime, but obviously what's the point in doing 10-2s when that's championship round? If you're going to do 10 rounds, it may as well be for a belt. So it'll probably be 8 rounds, or even, it'll probably be 8 rounds, yeah, September time.
Whenever we speak to the ladies on here, they all say they would like to box 3-minute rounds. Hopefully soon that will be, a change will be made.
Yeah, I hope so, because the 2s, it's just over too quick, and I feel like you rush, where in the 3s you can take your time a little bit more. And I think that's why there's not as many knockouts in the women, because 2 minutes you're rushing to try and get working in that such a short space of time. Whereas the 3s, you can take your time a little bit more, sit down on the punches more. Yeah.
Savannah, thanks very much for joining us, taking your time out of your evening, and best of luck going forward.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Bye-bye now.
All right, bye.
Savannah Marshall there. Thanks to Ozzy for sorting that one out. We were struggling to get Savannah on the call, but she was struggling because she was driving along and she wasn't able to get certain reception. We got that sorted out in the end. Sorry to cut you off there, Hamed. We're going to move on shortly. Just before we do so, is there anything else you want to add about the pay-per-view? Any other fights over the weekend? Anything coming up forward? Hamed?
One sec.
Yeah,
I just have a connection.
Go ahead, Hamed. We're losing Hamed here. He got stuck down a black hole. Hamed, I'm reaching my hand out to you. I'm going to pull you out.
Yeah. One sec.
Right, is there anything you want to talk about before we move on, sir? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, this is the main reason that I've kind of turned off British boxing. Aside from maybe Joshua, the odd few fighters. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good fighters from the UK, but some of these prospects, I mean, if they're gonna be hidden on pay-per-view undercards, I mean, how are you meant to judge them when they put into fights with, like, for the first 6, 7, 8 fights are mismatches, and I can't really be bothered watching any of these prospects now, like, until they step up to a level. Like, the last prospect I really probably watched, I think maybe Joshua, and maybe, I think is maybe Kano, but actually Kano's kind of matched up quite badly at the beginning as well. But there's only a handful of prospects that I watch a matchroom. It's hard to judge them, and don't get me wrong, like, I'm not saying rush them in like Lomachenko and make them fight tough fights from the second, but I like the way Tyson Fury was matched up. I think that was good matchmaking from Mick Hennessy on Channel 5 or ITV4. I don't think Hearn does the same job with his prospects. I think a lot of them, he just feed them. Like the Brook, I think what he done with Brook was a very bad job, and I think he's essentially destroyed Brook's career at the moment, because what he did with Golovkin, I think Brook, that just kind of ruined his career, because I think he should have really, after the Porter fight, I know I think he got stabbed and had a problem. I think he was out for a couple of months, but I think he fought a couple of mandatory challenges, and I think that was very bad. And then he just put him in with Golovkin. Like, I think he could have matched him up a bit better as well. But apart of the pay-per-view was on that, I don't really open any pay-per-views. I don't really bother with that. Just the only bad thing is, I mean, I don't know who touched upon it. It was a really good point. You pay for Sky Sports, and in the last 3 months, I think we've had Rocky Fielding's fight with Tyron Zoiga on Sky Sports, and that's quite bad. I mean, people who pay for just Sky Sports for boxing, I don't really pay for Sky Sports for football and other stuff, but it's kind of a con and a rip-off because, I mean, essentially you're paying about £60 and for Sky Sports, if it's the package, I think for yearly or a monthly, and there's a lot of money. And then on top, if you want to open or watch the fight, you got to pay pay-per-view. And I think, and it's not really like in America, a lot of the subscription based. I think it's HBO, and I think they complain about the ESPN app now. But if you compare it to here, we got to pay for that, and on top of it, we got to pay for pay-per-view if we want to watch the fights. I don't really pay open pay-per-views or pay that much money for fights like that on pay-per-view, but is a lot worse over here in America. The pay-per-view model is essentially dead, and over there they're just really only paying for, I think it's HBO and Showtime, and I think it's probably the ESPN app.
Good stuff, Hamad. Thanks for joining us. I think I heard you before on Beyond the Ropes or Behind the Ropes or something before. Were you on that?
Yeah, I'm on that. I was on there, I think, on Thursday. Yeah, that's a good podcast. Yeah, you listen to that, is it?
Yeah, bits and pieces I do actually. I thought I recognised your voice from there.
Yeah, I was on that, and I think I was on BDA's Boxing. That's a good podcast, but it's more of a debate. That's on YouTube. Yeah, I was on that as well. I do listen to a lot of podcasts on Stitcher. I've got about 12 or 11 that I listen to. Not regularly, but there's a lot of subscribed to. Are you guys on any of those other platforms?
No, we're on YouTube, iTunes, Patreon, Tumblr. I think that's it.
Or New Age Boxing is a good podcast. I think that's probably one of the best from the UK, along with this podcast. I don't think there's many other. The rest, I think, are more casual or matchroom based podcasts. I don't really bother listening. Call me auntie, but it is what it is.
No problem. Well, you're welcome with us anytime. Just hit me up on Twitter. Okay, we'll catch you again.
All right. Catch you. Nice one.
All the best.
You guys.
Cheerio now. Hamed there, everybody. Hamed92, TBE. Right, what are we on to now? Gabe, did you see Garcia against Easter? I was saying just before we had Hamed and Savannah come on about Easter. He wasn't really throwing the right hand, was he? Becoming a little bit passive as the final rounds came on. But I don't really blame him. I thought overall he put in a pretty decent performance. What do you think, Gabe? Mikey Garcia, Robert Easter? Hot take from you?
Yeah, I thought Easter started off strong, but I think he got tired. I think his conditioning wasn't good. And as I was telling you guys earlier, I thought his footwork was where he really got killed. Like, whenever he was moving around and not throwing punches, Mikey let him because he knew he was going to tire himself out. But as the fight wore on, his footwork just obviously wasn't up to the task, where Mikey's footwork was not allowing him to get position, just like he did in the knockdown, and pretty much control the action. I mean, there's no way that guy Mikey should have been able to get inside like he did and jab him like he did. I mean, he was hitting him with some really stiff jabs too. Of course, we know Mikey's power. He's reminds me a bit of Barrera because he doesn't really ever do anything half-assed. So so I think the thing that surprised me was that he was getting inside as easily as he was and still landing his punches, because to me it seemed it was Easter's fight to lose. He should have had his jab going, which he did early, but he just couldn't keep Mikey back because he wouldn't throw the right hand. Like if he would have brought something behind that behind that jab, I think it would have worked a lot better for him, and he might have had a lot different results. But his defense wasn't very good, to be honest with you. That's what I saw. His footwork wasn't as good as it needed to be in that fight, and then he just didn't bring anything behind the jab. I mean, he was hitting him with some good jabs. I mean, he landed some really good stiff jabs too, but didn't follow up with anything. And with a guy like Mikey, you got to bring something. You got to bring something to keep that son of a bitch off you, because if you don't, he's going to get inside and he's going to do what he wants to do. And as the fight wore on, that's pretty much what happened.
Good stuff, Gabe. Has everybody had their say on the Garcia card? Mikey Garcia, who was on the undercard? Mario Barrios, not really that fussed on him, beat Jose Roman. We mentioned Luis Ortiz, Razvan Kajanu. Anybody want to make any final comments on this card? Going once, going twice?
Ortiz said last week actually that if he was serious about a comeback in that, he'd be dealing with this guy. Fair play to him, he did it, Yeah. Left hand with a shot, man.
Great shot, wasn't it? The right hand that took Kajanu out, wasn't it? And then the left hand, bang, right behind it.
Vaporizer, mate, absolutely good shot, and good news about his daughter as well. I actually read up about that about 2 days ago. Actually, she's got some sort of skin condition that kind of breaks her out and kind of some sort of rash and stuff like that. So it's good that they've got a cure for it now. Eh?
Marcus Bellinger was on Twitter. He said the ESPN narrative around the Christopher Diaz fight, that Diaz had a higher pedigree, even though he hadn't fought more than 8 rounds, was laughable. Fair play, Marcus. I haven't seen the fight. I do want to strive to actually see that fight. Gabe, did you want to add something in?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up kind of with what Andy said. I thought it was great to see Ortiz come out, and it was great to see the crowd's reaction to him because he put on a hell of a show against Wilder. You know, I think something that a lot of people get in their minds is the maybe the shortcomings of the other Cubans that we've had for a long, long time. I mean, Arslan de Lara always comes out and fights, but you know, people don't like his style, and I can understand that. And then you got guys like Rigondeaux, who in his biggest fight possible, he just faded away. And Ortiz came out and put his balls out there and had a hell of a fight with Wilder. And I think last night was adequate response to what he's done recently in terms of the crowd reaction. So I thought it was good to see the crowd getting behind somebody who fights with some pride. And then, of course, too, as Andy said about his daughter, that was good to see. So I thought I was about to say Wilder. Excuse me, the Ortiz fight was really good. The way he came with that right hand and then dropped the straight right down the pipe on that guy, just solid, just a killer shot too. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but you know, seeing Ortiz before the fight, that motherfucker looks scary. I don't think I'd want to fight him. He just got this look on his face every time.
Yeah, we'll move on. We've got plenty of questions still on the panel. We have Andy, Gabe, Ozzy, Rob. Go and hit the like button if you like listening to us. Shout out to the chat as well. I just noticed in the chat, Fez, just to respond to your comment, you said, oh, it's okay to be racist in this chat room then. Let me tell you, Sam, it's not okay to be racist or any of this shit, but I'm trying to host the pod, trying to deal with the chat all at the same time. So, you know what I mean? Can't pick up on everything. If people are saying shit, then that's up to them as individuals, and it's up to you to engage with them. I can't monitor and babysit for you in there, okay? So it's not okay to be anything. If people are saying shit, you're going to have to deal with them yourself because I just can't get to it every 5 minutes, dude, all right? Right. You know what, Andy? We're going to have to come to it, aren't we? I'm trying to get Craig Thompson on the call. He was ringside for this epic clash last night. You know exactly what I'm referring to. Zeconomics has thrown in a question, Andy. After Lee McAllister's heroic move up in weight and stunning victory over Danny Williams, can anyone who doubts Usyk's ability to compete with the best heavyweights be dismissed as a know-nothing casual? Tell me about Williams McAllister.
What can I say? The Aberdeen Assassin. I've not even seen anything to do with the fight at all, mate. I've seen some kind of clips on Twitter and stuff. Some people are saying that Williams was apparently hurt a couple of times, dropped. Williams had forced on a guy. I mean, we all know the Williams story and stuff. He's went on far too long, but obviously this is your Malta Boxing Commissioner, what's it called? The Boxing and Irish. What's it called now, Steve?
IBA, British and Irish Boxing Association.
That's what it is. It's a fast, man. You know how the hell he even got licensed for that shit? It's unbelievable. But it's a farce. I did notice it was like collar and tie and that. You know, obviously like hospitality, pint at tables and stuff. Surprised there wasn't like throwing bottles in the ring after that shit, man. I mean, who would actually go and pay to watch that on a Saturday night at all things to you? Just shambles, fucking shambles. And the best thing to come out of that fight last night, Danny Williams finally retired.
Did he though?
Well, I suppose I'll give you that one, but at least we can hope. Fucking hell, he's going to retire after that. I mean, Christ, I remember when McAllister was Commonwealth champion at 2 weights at one point. Was it light welter and lightweight? I think it was. One point, I remember Dave Caldwell being his trainer. I'm going back something like 8 years or something. So to see him like pack on that weight and against a short guy like that, it's just a fucking circus act.
Pretty much is. Brian G was in touch with us as well. He was talking about things at the upper echelons, whatever, of the boxing game. He said, what do you think is next for Mikey Garcia? We discussed that just now. He's talking about moving up 2 divisions for Spence. Loma beats Ray, then that would be a fight for all the belts, would be massive. You're quite right about that, Brian. I think that I would like to see Garcia fighting Lomachenko next, to be honest with you. Right, question. We're going to talk about DAZN very briefly here before we move on to the stuff for next week. Thoughts on the DAZN announcement? Very brief thoughts from me, Ozzy, before we come into you. Andrew McCormick mentioned it as well. We were going to discuss it last week, but I don't know what your thoughts are, Ozzy, but what I'm thinking is, I know that they've got this Bellator, is it MMA is involved some way as well, and so the World Boxing Super Series. Now, the AJ Povetkin fight was dangled as a carrot for potential new subscribers, and we saw this incident at the DAZN launch where Jarrell Miller, he was clearly told to jump on stage, wasn't he? Create some kind of fake beef so he can position himself as the next challenger. Eddie Hearn pretending that he wasn't getting involved in all this pushing and shoving, but he'd clearly told the security to stand away. So when the pushing and shoving started, he would be right in the middle of it, right in the middle of the photos, trying to keep the peace. Broader stuff, Aussie, 3 unknown amateurs were signed as well. From what I'm made aware of, these amateurs weren't even going to turn pro at all, and they were approached by Eddie like a few days before the announcement, trying to beef up the top stage, I think. And finally, my understanding is also that the Jesse Vargas deal with DAZN and Demetrius Andrade's deal make them both promotionally exclusive to Matchroom USA, although Al Heyman remains with Vargas in an advisory capacity. And I believe the rest are co-promotional deals, like Beterbiev is coming courtesy of Yvonne Michelle. So I guess his flirtation with the PBC is over. Sorry about the long intro, Ozzy, but I mean, I don't know what you think of this, but it seems to me that they've tried to go in for the real high earners in the sport, the likes of your Charlos and your Davises, and they've fallen short a little bit. They've gone for likes of Daniel Roman, and they've reached him a week before the announcement and said, can you sign with us, pretty much. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, it seems that. I think Hearn did what he usually does, and he give it the big intro of we're going to get the big names in. I want a Charlo, etc., things like that. And for the launch, it's not worked, but this is just the first batch of signings, and I don't think they're that bad, to be honest. Don't get me wrong, they could be better, but straight away he's delivered because he won a purse bid for Andrade to have a home fight against Billy Joe Saunders. So if you're a fighter who potentially doesn't have, like a TV deal or something like that, Hearn's put up the big money to take Saunders over there, and straight away it's an opportunity where you think, well, I could get a good opportunity there. There's nothing much they can get better with that. I think Danny Jacobs is probably going to be one of the signings as well. I think he might have one fight left on his current TV deal, so I wouldn't be shocked to see him move over. And then after that, they're promising a hell of a lot of fights in terms of signings. And with, I think, the early cards, I think you're going to see a lot of the English lads from his stable over here beef them up. Like I said, beef them up. They'll get opportunities over there. So I think you'll see Conor Benn go over there. I think Tommy Coyle is going over to America to fight at the back end of this year. A couple of Gavin McDonald's, one of them as well. So I think it's going to be a slow process. I'm all for it. It's a new service. They've got to pick up different things to pad it out for a subscription. People aren't just going to buy it for boxing if they can tie it in, with potentially, they get some NFL games, things like that. It's going to work. So it's going to be an interesting journey. Eddie's gone a different route. He has to, because a lot of the big promoters are tied up with their own TV deals. So let's wait and see. Like I say, he's promising big signings. They've started okay. It can only get better, I presume.
Yeah, it was Andrew McCormick. He said, I know that you were talking about the DAZN tonight on the pod. If a fighter is fighting a Matchroom guy next, Sky usually show their fight just to generate interest. So do you think that means that Mikey Garcia won't be signing for Hearn and DAZN as Sky didn't show his fight? Yeah, I don't think Mikey Garcia is going to sign with Hearn or DAZN at all. I don't think, in fact, that Mikey Garcia is going to sign with anybody. So no, I don't think someone who is signing for DAZN, Rob, is our main man, Maurice Hooker, the 80s slickster. He signed with Eddie rather than Top Rank, which had been expected. But Hooker's also still with Rock Nation. I mentioned Daniel Roman as well. His fight with Gavin McDonald is a one-fight deal. There's no further ties confirmed. For something that's been labelled the takeover, it is a little bit lukewarm. But I do want this DAZN deal to succeed, because I think eventually, if it does, the money will be there for boxing, and it's good for boxing overall. Regarding Maurice Hooker, Rob, I think he really did crown his signing with DAZN in style. He crashed his car while drunk, and then the police managed to get hold of him, and he had an illegal firearm. Is that something you're going to be doing around the streets of Wexford, going in full Maurice Hooker style, Rob?
Sorry, what was that, dude?
I was just saying about Maurice Hooker. He signed with Eddie and he celebrated by getting caught drink driving, smashing his car into 2 police cars, and then he had an illegal firearm. Is that something you're going to be doing around the streets of Wexford?
Yeah, apart from the firearm, Pat. No, I'm only joking. Maurice, yeah, he's a bit more interesting outside the ring than he is inside the ring. He's very straight up and down, like, isn't he? Even though he boxed really well against Flanagan, deservedly won it. Like, I thought we'd see him in the Super Series, like, but no, he's off. Yeah, doing Grand Theft Auto, like Car Decide or something on some self-destruct mission. So I don't know. We'll see. I look forward to seeing Maurice back in action. I want to see him in some sequin shorts next time out, like proper 80s style, like, to go with his whole aura and his whole fighting style. Like, but yeah, that's a joke, like, isn't it?
Timestamp that, Steve, for the 300th.
I should do. What time are we at now? About 9:30?
Give me a second. 1 hour 29.
1 hour 29. Fair enough. Right. What have we got? Andy, final question to you. I think I have 2, actually. One for you anyway. Mark Lovell has said, I'd be curious to see what you think about BJ Flores versus Trevor Bryan being made an eliminator for the WBA heavyweight belt. Meanwhile, White versus Parker isn't an eliminator. So whoever the hell Trevor Bryan is fighting BJ Flores in a WBA eliminator. I mean, it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
So does the winner get this? What's happened with Fraser Kendo? What's happened with him? Has he fought yet?
No, we need to get your man Tom back on the call again, isn't it? It was supposed to take place in September, wasn't it, against Manuel Char, but it's just completely gone off the radar.
Oh fuck, man! I'm losing all track here. So wait a minute, we've got Joshua's a super champ. Manny Char, who he's meant to be fighting a Kendo. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And went the purse bids. That's been all his rat shit. And then you've got Miller kicking around about. So you can imagine Eddie's pally with WBA. You know, there were a lot of WBA trinkets on show there last night, Steve. You kind of got a theory for that one. Fuck, how's Flores, man? What's he done to get a number 6 ranking? And who the fuck is Trevor Bryan when we're at the same matter?
I don't know.
Jesus. Guillermo Jones in the top 10?
Yeah, where's Guillermo Jones, man? We need more of him.
Jesus Christ. But an eliminator, listen, I know nothing about Trevor Bryan. I really don't. I really, at this point in my life, the less I know about BG Flores, the better, actually. He's awful to watch. We saw him what he did against Bellew, just offered absolute shit. So other than that, the question remains, how is he getting an eliminator?
Well, we were talking in the chat last night about all the WBA belts that were on the line last night on this Eddie show. I mean, it's a way of paying them back maybe for the Joshua Povetkin situation, but I mean, they're really in bed with the WBA at the moment, Andy. You've even got Conor Benn fighting for WBA Continental titles. It's a nice agreement, isn't it? And a bit of pocket money for the WBA. But Flores, why the hell is Flores? I mean, Flores is shit at cruiserweight. Why is he getting a shot at heavyweight? And Guillermo Jones was decent at cruiserweight, but he was a drugs cheat at cruiserweight. So why is he getting a shot at heavyweight? I mean, the WBA, they need to be taken out into the backfield and just shotgun down. I mean, I know that's a pretty strong thing to say, but it's just ridiculous.
Well, does anybody rate Shumanov? I mean, even at his prime, did anybody rate him? Probably no.
No.
He lost to him. I remember he went to Australia, actually. I think back in the forum days and that as well. I remember people were going on about it back then. He got schooled. He got tooled off fucking Danny Green. And Danny Green wasn't even a fucking legit cruiserweight.
Forget about it, Andy. We're just going to upset ourselves. Let's move on. Right, Ozzy, we have talked about pay-per-view and that tonight, so I don't expect a whole big rant off you on this one. But Pricey's Left Hook sent in a message a couple of weeks ago, which I wanted to get out of the way here. He said, Santa Cruz versus Mares, title fight, and Charlo versus Trout, title fight, were free. White versus Parker, irrelevant, and Chisora versus Takam, irrelevant, were pay-per-view. Is British boxing booming, or are the British just willing to lap up and pay extra for mediocrity? I know we've been accused of being a little bit negative tonight, Oz, but what do you think about Price's Left Hook's question?
It's booming for that exact reason, because I'd like to see the stats last night, but I know a lot of people and all the pubs and things like that were showing it. You know, in all honesty, the fight wasn't for anything. It wasn't a final eliminator for a world title. There wasn't a belt on the line or anything. But people loved it. Sold 20,000 tickets. Probably done a few 100,000 pay-per-view buys. I can't see people don't agree with it, but at the same time, boxing is booming because the casuals, which ultimately sell the tickets, because it's rare you're going to get the more hardcore, flocking to all these shows. They are the ones that buy a lot of the tickets, the casuals, and they're buying it in numbers now. And whilst people may not agree with it or like it, they're clearly doing something right, and it's working. So the difference is over here is you're not going to get it's a different market with the pay-per-view situation. You can get away with a lot more over here, which has been proven already. Some of the pay-per-views that I've been on, that naturally they will be on pay-per-view, whereas the example used, Santa Cruz Mares and the Charlo fight, wasn't on pay-per-view. There will be differences. But no, yeah, it is booming, and sadly, I think pay-per-views are here to stay. BT are going to roll out their pay-per-view in the back end of the year. I think it's going to be Frampton, Warrington. If all goes well, you'll probably see that in December, to be honest. I think that'll launch BT's pay-per-view platform.
Final pay-per-view one, Rob, I'll hit you with it. Mr. Boxing Casual says, with all the criticism of pay-per-view, what would the pod class as pay-per-view worthy for Matchroom and Frank Warren's respective stables? Also, would the pod ever pay for pay-per-view when you are all team stream? Well, let me tell you, Mr. Boxing Casual, I've paid for pay-per-view quite a few times. Whenever I get asked to cover a fight that's on pay-per-view for the newspaper, I always order it just in case. Obviously, the stream cuts out. You've got a deadline, you've got to file a report and such. So I would buy pay-per-view in that instance. So I'm not completely Mr. Team Stream, completely, as you would expect. What about you, Rob? I mean, we're looking at Matchroom stable, Frank stable, pay-per-views. Could you foresee in the future, in Frank's side, it'll have to be a Tyson Fury fight, wouldn't it? I don't know if Frampton could class as pay-per-view. I know he fought Quigg on pay-per-view back in the Sky days. And as for Matchroom stable, Khan versus Brook, every AJ fight pay-per-view.
Yeah, Eddie seems to have a lot more pay-per-view options, but only because he has like the Sky pay-per-view dates already determined before the start of the year. Like, he's got a calendar year, he has to do so many pay-per-views, and he kind of makes Sky's pay-per-view stars to the casuals. Like, that seems to be his approach. So, like the Dave Allen, Dillian White, Tony Bellew, he loves these guys because if they get big enough or whatever, they can have a beef or whatever they may be able to manufacture. Like, he can fit a pay-per-view date. Frank doesn't seem to go down that route, so he doesn't really seem to have as many options. Like, obviously Tyson Fury, depending on how he looks in his next fight, he's going to have one more and he's going to be looking to get back to world contention. That's certainly the plan. And him versus any of the top two is a pay-per-view. But him versus like anyone down the list, is it going to is it a pay-per-view fight? Like, I don't know. Like, so yeah, Eddie probably has the edge in terms of availability for pay-per-view fighters. Like, not that I agreed with some of them being pay-per-view fighters, but it is what it is. It's happening, so that's what they are.
That's the era we're living in. Rob's quite right. Let's move on to the fights for next week. Plenty of Bellew of the weeks coming up at the end of the show, as you might expect. I mean, I've got flooded there. Must have had about 80 over the weekend, but we'll get through as many as we can. Gabe, let's go on to you for this fight on August the 4th. Lou DiBella in New York at Uniondale. He's got Devon Alexander against Andre Berto. On the undercard, Peter Quillen returns. He was the PBC Fighter of the Week, naturally, given he's been so active, going in against Jay Leon Love. Last time, didn't he get knocked out by Porky Medina? I think he did a while back. Sergei Lipinets returns in a decent fight, actually, against Eric Bone. You've also got Luis Collazo on the card. Tell me, though, Gabe, about Devon Alexander versus Andre Berto. It's like something you wouldn't have minded seeing about 4 or 5 years ago, probably.
Yeah, it's a flashback. I think it feels like it should have happened around the time Berto was getting paid tons of cash on HBO to fight tomato cans. Man, it feels like it's been forever ago. It probably has been a little while. And, at that time, Tim Bradley, Devon Alexander were both two of the up and coming guys, and they were supposed to, be the future of boxing. And they had that awful fucking fight where Alexander quit. Just a little bit of history to rehash there. But yeah, it does. It's more of a throwback fight. Berto is really inactive. I think I can't remember the last time that he fought. Alexander's trying to be on the comeback trail after an extended absence. He's had a couple of fights now since he's been back. But I don't think it'll be a bad fight. I mean, you're talking about two guys that, no matter how we feel about them now or what they were supposed to be, have some level of talent. And so I think whenever you're looking at it from that perspective, it's definitely going to have some fun points of the evening. It shouldn't be a complete shit fest, not like whatever fight they put Luis Collazo in. I do think they're past their best. Anybody who says otherwise is maybe a little bit silly, but I think it should be okay. The card overall is not something that I would write home about, but I don't know. I mean, it could be a good fight. I think it'll be at least as good as any Alexander fight can be. I've never really been a big fan of the guy, so I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I figure Alexander will box Berto fairly well, and Berto will have a few moments where he might do some good things, but overall he'll get outboxed because he's just really not that good a boxer. He tried to be a boxer, and they painted him as a boxer, and he never really turned into that. He's always been, to me, most enjoyable in his fights where he's really going forward and trying to be more of a force. His boxing does nothing for me. And matter of fact, that does much for anybody because it's just really point blank not that good. But not the worst card I've ever heard of, but maybe a little bit of nostalgia.
Yeah, Dave Smith on the chat was mentioning Frampton Warrington possible pay-per-view. That did cross my mind when I was talking to Rob, but I wasn't quite sure off the hop there. Brandon Figueroa's on this undercard, actually. Also, Hannah Rankin, Scottish female boxer, going in for the WBA title against Alicia Napoleon. Richard Comey, Gary Antoine Russell, Antonio Russell. There's friggin' plenty of these Russells knocking about. And also, Marcus Brown returns. He was obviously supposed to fight on this same night against Sergey Kovalev. Kovalev's also fighting in New York, I believe, against Eleider Alvarez. We'll talk about that fight in a minute. Marcus Brown going in against Lenin Castillo. I don't mind Brown, actually. I think he's quite exciting to watch. He's been pretty inactive. I think he's been in trouble with the law. I think he might have been doing a little bit of sparring at home, but I'll have to check that on Wikipedia before I allege too much against this gentleman. Andy, I'm coming to you in a minute on Billy Dib, Tevin Farmer. Ozzy, we'll go to you first. Quick word on Kermin Leharaga, last seen knocking out Bradley Skeet. He's fighting Michele Di Rocco. This is a tune-up we were talking off air for Mr. Leharaga's fight with Frankie Gavin, I believe.
It is, yeah. I can't see it lasting too long, to be honest. I was very impressed by the Spaniard when he dismantled, what's it called, Skeet by all accounts.
Yeah. Did Di Rocco fight Burns, Ozzy? Am I right in saying that?
Did, yes, yeah, for the super lightweight belt. Couple of English lads on the card as well, actually. I've just checked. Ryan Farag, not sure what weight he's campaigned at Superfly, Bantam. I think he's even boxed at Super Bantam as well. And Nav Mansouri, a bit of a blast from the past, really. He's been really inactive for the past few years and, struggled for fights more than anything. So he's back out as well, probably something to do with the MTK there, but it's taking place in Marbella, so there's your connection there. But I'm just talking about when you were mentioning the Berto Alexander card, and I've just gone on it then because I thought there's some names on there. This will be pay-per-view in the UK, in my opinion. It's got the world title on, which he pass off as Katie Taylor, Alexander Berto, Quillen Love, Lipinets, former world title holder, Calars Brown, Comey as well. I think they will try and pass this off as pay-per-view, to be honest. So, and that's where I think the difference is that if you were to equivalent to the UK, this will be built, like the profiles will be slightly different, etc., things like that. And this will pass as a pay-per-view. Whereas in America, I think, is it free-to-air Fox?
I think it is Fox, isn't it, Ozzy?
Yeah. So they're the differences at the moment, is that the market over here is so essentially in love with the sport, is that a card like that is passed off as a pay-per-view. So you've got to pay, what, 20 quid now? I think that's the Sky price. So it has increased, hasn't it? It increased for Joshua, but it now seems that the natural Sky pay-per-views are going to be £20 for the foreseeable, it seems.
Remember, everybody, if you want to support the Asylum, it's dead easy. Just leave us an iTunes review or hit subscribe on YouTube. If you're in the chat right now, go and hit the thumbs up. Shout out to Jason Chuckwu. I think a gentleman on Twitter by the name of Craig Shuttleton is looking to come on, so we'll hopefully get him on soon. Might have to end up ringing him up. Right, Andy, let's go down under, shall we? See what's going on down there. Friday the 3rd of August. Billy Dibb against Tevin Farmer. Billy Dibb seems to have been around for frigging years, doesn't he? I mean, he's getting this chance against Farmer. Farmer obviously lost controversially to Kenichi Ogawa for the IBF title. Ogawa was popped for PEDs. It's now been made vacant. He's fighting against Dibb. We expect the winner, hopefully, to go in against Gervonta Davis, Andy. Also on the undercard, Tim Tszyu. Costas Tszyu's son. If he's a chip off the old block, he'd be a pretty damn fine fighter going in against Stevie Fernandez. We'll see how he progresses. I think he punches hard like the old man anyway. Tell me about Billy Dibb, Tevin Farmer, though, Andy. Farmer has a bit of a strange style, doesn't he? He's a switch hitter. He goes in and out, so he might get hosed on the cards if he's not careful. He's going to have to plant his feet at times and have a real go, I think, Andy. You with us, Andrew?
Sorry, mate, I was on mute there. I was chatting away to myself.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think at some point he's got to stand in there and trade because let's be honest here. Dibb's seen better days. I mean, I'm going to must. I've never seen him since he got knocked out off Mauro, and that was a bad knockout. I remember cleaning up that day. Actually, the odds on that were ridiculous. Get knocked out in the 3rd round, I'm sure it was. So I've never seen him since then. He's had how many fights? About 4 or 5 fights since then. Now he's got an IBF title shot.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. But obviously Farmer should be champion anyway because obviously he got hosed. But I agree with you. I think if he wants to elect to go for a fight, I think if he does, he can knock him out. If he really wants to go for it, and I think that's what he's going to have to do because if he allows it to get, if he gets passive or anything like that, likes to box and move and just doesn't really fully commit, lets Dibb get close to him and stuff, he's going to get hosed. We just know that's going to happen. There was who was the last fighter actually? Was it who was the Brit that went earlier recently and got hosed?
It was Tyrone Nurse against Jack Boobreaker, wasn't it?
Somebody said that he got hosed in the cards and that as well. So we know how Nurse boxes as well. Maybe something similar actually. So fucking just Farmer just needs to step in there and do it. It's probably going to be his best chance as well because you're expecting. It's him and Farmer. It's Davis and Farmer. It's the two who's got the beef, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
I think it is. So obviously it's a natural fight you want to see happen. So you need to have Farmer win it.
And obviously Billy Dibb, Andy, he's had a lot of personal problems. I think his wife passed away. It would be, he's not the worst guy in the world to win a world title, but then at the end of the day, you get in, you hit each other. There's no room for sentiment in boxing, is there?
Well, there's not 2 of these guys. I think there's one.
Oh, right.
One's wife passed away. The other one will actually kick his wife a kicking or something like that, and she left him. Or
I don't know. I know there's Bill L. Dibb and then there's Billy Dibb. I don't know if anyone in the chat wants to. I've made this mistake before. I do apologise.
That one needs to get clarified because I know one's really heavily into likes of helping with the Syrian refugee crisis and that and I remember something about his wife had died with cancer and that, but there was another one I'm sure. I don't know if I think this is the one that's apparently maybe gave his wife a bite of doing or something.
No, this is Bill L. Dibb. I'm not sure. If anyone in the chat wants to clarify, I won't say any more in case I'm getting it badly wrong. I know Ben might have some more information on that situation, so we'll park it for now. Just before we go on to the Kovalev fight with Gabe and Rob, tell me about this next-gen card next Saturday night. Aussie, Joe Cordina going in 7-0 against Sean Dodd. Natasha Jonas against Vivian Obernerf. We've also got Yelusinov. He's fighting against some Eastern European. Jordan Gill, 20-0 now, looking to move him up in levels. Scotty Cardle returns. All the usual names on the undercard, Aussie, but it's all about Cordina, Dodd. You'd expect Cordina, if he's going anywhere, to have too much for Dodd, wouldn't you?
Definitely. And to be honest, I think it's going to be an early night for Joe Cordina. Really talented lad, this guy. And it's good matchmaking as well. Dodd's coming off a pretty devastating defeat against Tommy Coyle. I think he hit the ground, 2 or 3 times and was stopped pretty emphatically. Probably a last chance saloon for this guy, so he's had to go on the road. He does sell a lot of tickets himself. Cordina, loads of amateur talent, not put a foot wrong in the pro game so far, and I think we'll see a very impressive performance, and he'll just be too strong and powerful for Dodd. We were mentioning in the chat before we came on air, but Vivian Obernerf, she's fought Chantel Cameron and Katie Taylor. It's now Natasha Jonas's turn to fight her. Yelusinov, he's in with Gabor Gorbix. He's fought Liam Williams before, actually. When Ahmet Patterson pulled out the fight, Gorbix came over as a late replacement. Gill is in with that Burner. He fought Michael Conlon, that David Burner, actually. I think in his 2nd or 3rd fight. in America. After that, the usual names are being rolled out: Cardle, McGoldrick, Gamal Yafai's back out there as well. A couple of others. It's a next gen card, but there's not really a lot to it, is there? To be honest, everything's in the main event. After that, it's a run out for a lot of Matchroom's fringe stable, really. Ones that are never going to headline or are becoming opponents, like Cardle, Yafai was as well, and a couple. Gill, he's in the frame now, I think, for a fight with Ryan Doyle. So yeah, it is what it is. But I think Dodd will do the business. Cordina will do the business.
Yeah, Nothing for Something made a good point in the chat there. Actually, I neglected to mention, I know Broner was ringside or thereabouts last night supporting Robert Easter, sitting next to Gervonta Davis. If Davis wants to do anything with his career, you think he would have to stay away from that fat mess. Unfortunately, it's not going to end well for either of them, I wouldn't have thought. Maybe Broner might eventually...
Can he wait, my arms? Can he fucking wait?
And
it's going to be a glorious day in life when that happens, by the way. Holy fuck, can he wait?
Right, Rob, let's put Gervonta Davis's demise to one side and go over to the big one next week in New Jersey. Kathy Duva's promoting. HBO will be televising this. Sergey Kovalev going in against Eleider Alvarez. WBO title. Fair play to Kovalev, you know what? I know that he has to take the short end of the stick and they throw him in against these opponents. I don't think that he's going to have it all his own way against this Alvarez whatsoever, because this Alvarez, from what I've seen, Rob, is an absolute unit, man. He's huge at the weight. He's going to give Kovalev a few problems, I think. Also, they're obviously setting up, hopefully, Kovalev to unify against Dimitri Bivol. Bit of a mere fight for me against Isaac Chilemba. It's sort of marking time. What's Chilemba going to show Bivol that he hasn't seen? I'm not really quite sure. Maybe someone who's going to go a few rounds. And then Bakram Murtazaliev is someone to keep an eye on the undercard. Forget about him, though. Rob, tell me about Kovalev, Bivol, and their respective futures.
I'm expecting Kovalev to come through this fight with Alvarez, actually. I think he might knock him out still. We'll have to see, can Alvarez get to the body, which is the kryptonite like there for Kovalev, isn't it? I don't know if Kovalev is the same fighter anymore, but I still think he'll knock out Alvarez. However, I'd favour Bivol to beat him, of what I've seen so far with Bivol, and I think Bivol will stop Chilemba. Let's see who stops Isaac Chilemba. But I think Bivol will get him out of there. I'm keen on that stoppage. And I like Bivol, like everything about him. He can punch a little bit. He's a different style of fighting. He doesn't just have that Eastern European style. He can vary it a little bit. And they're fast tracking him or whatever. So I'd love to see that fight. Kovalev Bivol is the fight to make at light heavyweight for me.
Andy, what do you think? I obviously want to see Kovalev Bivol as well. Bivol's a really nice, tidy fighter. I was impressed by the way he completely outboxed Sullivan Barrera, and then he put the foot down on the gas at the end and got rid of him. Wasn't it Gvozdyk, I think, who made Chilemba quit? I think now that Chilemba's been cracked, Bivol's just going to finish it off and just sweep up the pieces of China, and I think he's going to knock out Chilemba at some point. Maybe not knock him out, but around the 10th or 11th round, Chilemba might have the white tail coming in, and then hopefully if Kovalev does the business, we'll see the two of them fighting each other soon.
I think he actually broke his hand against Gvozdyk, but as you say that I actually checked his age. Actually, he's still relatively young. He's only 31 apparently, but fuck, that must be in dog years, man. But yeah, you would think Bivol, he would. He's obviously on the up. So it will be how he handles this. This Chilemba. But I'm kind of hoping he stops him. I actually want to send him out send out a kind of a message to kind of like Kovalev. That he is on the up. He is in his prime. He has got the power and stuff. Stop Sullivan Barrera right, obviously. And then obviously the guy Broadhurst wasn't really much a challenge, was he? But obviously all roads lead to the Kovalev fight, and we're wanting to see a change in the guard, because obviously we've seen Kovalev, we've seen him crack now, 35 years of age. I think Alvarez now, he must be roughly about the same age as well, undefeated, but at the same time as if you look at the booty when it was a good knockout, but it was a wash booty, and obviously he's kind of went close with Pascal again, who's seen better days. But again, these are decent names on his record and that, but. Is he ready for likes of Kovalev? Is he seen? Is his prime been and went? We haven't really seen it, because he has been relatively inactive. I think this is his first fight in about over a year. I think just about. So You're thinking Kovalev, probably I'll go 10th round stoppage, and I'll say Bivol roughly about the same. I'll probably go late, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Bivol go the distance actually, but I'll maybe say Bivol, maybe another 12th round stoppage.
Gabe, looking at Alvarez, as Andy said, he's been inactive. He's been taking that beautiful step-aside money. I think it was out of Adonis Stevenson's pocket that we kept paying him off. Kovalev was supposed to fight Marcus Brown. As I said, Brown wasn't able to take the fight for whatever reason. Now they've shuffled Alvarez into Kovalev's path. I've said before in the pod, I know that Kovalev doesn't have the leverage that you would expect of someone of his name within the sport. He has to pretty much take what he's given by the likes of HBO. Looking at Alvarez, though, Gabe, he beat Rhino Liebenberg. That was his real standout fight in Monte Carlo in 2014. Knocked him out. Then he won a majority decision over Isaac Chilemba in 2015. Since then, he's knocked out Lucien Butte and then won only a majority decision over Jean Pascal, which maybe sets off alarm bells, Gabe. Where do you think this Alvarez is going to fit into the Kovalev plan?
I don't think Kovalev's going to have too much trouble with him. There may be a moment or two where Kovalev finds himself in a little bit of a pickle. But like you were saying, he took the step-aside money so many times. It kind of makes you wonder, what was he taking the step-aside money for? Did he see something he didn't like? Did he see something that worried him?
He saw something he liked, Gabe, and that was the green notes coming his road.
Yeah, that too. But I mean, what I'm thinking is, wouldn't you stand to make more money if you take the title fight with Kovalev, who's a hot star at the time whenever he was taking that money, and take that title opportunity if you feel confident, win the fight, and then you stand to make more money because you capitalize off that particular moment in time. Yeah, you pad your pocket for doing nothing, which, I mean, fuck, who would turn that down? But at the same time, I mean, in this particular sport, I think it makes sense to approach it that way too. I just really don't think he's that good, to be honest with you. That's just my own personal thoughts. I'm not really sure what it is about him that I don't like. I just don't really feel like he's that good. There's nothing that makes me say wow whenever I watch him. I mean, he's talking about knocking out Lucien Butte, which what does that matter? A majority decision with John Pascal, right? Majority decision.
Yep.
I mean, come on. John Pascal, to me, is a guy that he's a solid fighter. I really do enjoy his fights too most of the time, but he has a gas tank, issue. And so what was the deal with that? What did he do that presented so much problems for Alvarez? So just based off what I've seen, I just really don't see the fight being ultra competitive. There will be spots, of course, and Kovalev might hit a snag here or there, but this is Kovalev's fight to lose. That's just kind of my thoughts on it.
Kovalev's fight to lose, Ozzy. Final word to you. Also with a view to Bivol. I know I keep saying that to everybody, but I really like the look of him and I want to see him fight Kovalev next. No messing about. HBO need these type of fights. Do you think Bivol and Kovalev will get their respective opponents out of the way, Ozzy? And what kind of trouble will they each have?
I do agree with Gabe. I think it's Kovalev's fight to lose, and I think it may go. I think he might do it a bit earlier as well, to be honest. I mean, like I said, Alvarez has been topping up that bank balance with that step aside money for, God, it seems like about the best part of 2 years now. In a relative, I mean, I don't think it should have been a majority decision from what I remember. I don't think I watched the fight, but I did caught the highlights against Pascal. But Kovalev's bounced back. He's stayed active since getting beat off Ward. And I think that whilst it's a good fight for him, I think he'll have more than enough to take him apart. I don't think Alvarez is the biggest of punches either, which is obviously going to aid Kovalev. Bivol, I think the cracks are appearing in Chilemba. I mean, they all started when the bomber, Tony Bellew, got involved and he inflicted, I think, was it the first defeat on Isaac Chilemba? Did come out with some statements that it would never happen again. Obviously, it hasn't. And then I think the fight is what we want to see. Sergey Kovalev, Dmitry Bivol, a brilliant fight. It's a unification, and it's one that I think everybody wants to see. Nothing against the fights that are happening next weekend. Get them on the same card. Excellent idea. And then put them in next. There's nothing stopping it whatsoever. Absolutely nothing. So for me, I'd rather... I want to see that sooner rather than later. And it's good to see that these belts are becoming active now as well. Because you've obviously got Beterbiev and Callum Johnson with another version of the light heavyweight title. And then you've got Stevenson, who I think... Has he got a date scheduled in for the end of the year? Or am I wrong on that
Talking
one?
about the Jack rematch, aren't they? No, what else? No, they were going to force...
Oh, it's Gvozdyk.
Yeah, that's right, Gvozdyk, yeah.
Yeah, so it's good to see that the belts are actually becoming more active now. So fingers crossed that if they are, then we could see these unifications, because the top guys at this weight, they make for great fights further down the line.
I think Stevenson, Ozzy, just briefly will batter Gvozdyk, you know.
Yes, yeah, I do as well. But it's a fight that I want to see, and I'd happily see that.
Thoroughly agree. Just before we get on to Value of the Weeks and finish up for the evening, joining us on the call, friend of the show, big heavy-hitting RBO champion, Craig Shuttleton. How are you, Craig?
Good, mate, good. Yourselves?
I'm not too bad at all. Tell me about this White Parker thing then. What did you make of it?
First of all, I just want to say thanks for obviously having me on the podcast. Been a long-term listener. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and stuff. Sorry about trying to get a hold of you on Twitter. Pretty bad. Don't know how it works. Parker fight. I thought White pretty done. It was reasonably easy for him. I don't think Parker pressed it. Slow to get off. First knockdown was absolute bullshit. Yeah.
Pretty much it was a headbutt in the second round, wasn't it? Nothing more, nothing less.
I think it was a shoulder. He hit him with.
But either way, it wasn't a legitimate knockdown.
I was wanting Parker to win. I think he's obviously... Dylan White is just a bit of a scumbag in my mind, and when he knocked him down in the last couple of seconds, we were screaming for him, all my mates. So, yeah.
You thought that he was going to do the business, he was going to turn it all around, Parker was going to make himself relevant again, but he just ran out of gas himself in the last few seconds, didn't he?
Yeah, a couple of seconds, and just go at him. But I think White was smart as well. He did stay down a bit longer than he maybe should have done, and drew it around.
What about the undercard? We had obviously Chisora Takam there making a play. Anthony Fowler was there. Joshua Buatsi.
Great fight. I'm mates with a mate, and it's very good mates with Chisora.
Mm-hmm.
The boys, I don't know if you've seen this, but the boy spends a lot of money and stuff like that, and I don't know if his heart's in it anymore. And first round, I was like, what the fuck is he doing? Just sitting in the ropes and getting an absolute levering. And I thought the game plan was all wrong, but I mean, Takam's mouthpiece was hanging out his mouth after the second round, and I think Chisora was definitely still behind the points, but massively, a great victory for him. Opens up a lot of opportunities to him.
You think Takam maybe just put too much in early on?
Yeah, 100%. I watched Takam v Parker, great fight. Takam v Joshua, he was always kind of at that level. Kind of contender level and certainly not championship level, especially at heavyweights. It's a bit crap anyway. But massive victory for Chisora. But he's had a lot of wars, and I don't know how many more he will have to go, but he's obviously chasing that White fight. He was on the end of the night trying to get White to recognise him that he wants, and obviously a second chance.
Yeah, I think maybe the miles are starting to come onto the old clock. Just before we go on to Bellew of the Week here, Craig, and thanks for joining us. What about anything else from the weekend? Did you manage to catch Garcia, or what about this Danny Williams McAllister fight that was going on?
No, I only noticed that over a week. McAllister Williams, that's a joke, isn't it? Been a big fan of Danny Garcia for a long, Mikey Garcia for a long time. I would like to see him fight Linares. Obviously, the problems he's got with Bobby Arum, and Linares with Ossie De La Hoya. I think they're kind of sticking together now because they know that Heyman's situation is maybe taking control and they can't get. Obviously, when these fights, they're going to stick together and make their own fights. Maybe if they can't make them in house with each other, then maybe do a bit of business with each other before even giving guys like Mikey, especially since he left Bob.
When it comes to money being made, they can always make up their differences, can't they?
Yeah. I just want to say as well, it was I've been following this for a long time. It was me that messaged Andy. Obviously, I'm just phoning you, and you're actually phoning me just now. So it was me that messaged Andy, and I don't know if you can hear me or whatever, because I've switched off the chat just now. Big Rangers fan myself, Andy. How you doing?
And Andy's actually be right back. I think he's gone off to do something, but I'll definitely pass your sentiments on to him. Don't worry.
Well, I messaged him saying about the initial draw stages of the Super Series. Obviously, we wish Josh Taylor well in that, and big up the Scots.
Big up the Scots. That's as good as any place to leave it. At Craig Shuttle TO4, is that right on Twitter?
Yeah, I don't use Twitter a lot. Just obviously follow you guys and so stuff, you know. So
good stuff, Craig. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you again soon. Okay.
Cheers, mate.
All the best. Bye now. Craig Shuttleton there, RBO champion, World Boxing Association organisation, whatever it's called. I've turned my phone off. That's not going to be a good idea when we've got Bellew of the Weeks to come. 10:10. Go and hit subscribe, chat, all those things. I already said that, didn't I? Right, I've stalled for long enough. Let's get on to the Bellew of the Weeks. Rob's with us, Ozzy's with us, Gabe's with us. Andy Patterson is also with us at the moment. I know the chat love the Bellew of the Week, so get involved, boys. First nomination is from Simon Says Wow for Caleb Truax. Simon always asks Caleb Truax stupid questions like about what his favourite Ghostbuster is and stuff. He says, what's your favourite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? Caleb says, bro, Michelangelo is a problem with those nunchucks. I love Truax. He seems like a real nice guy. I hope he goes far in the sport. Boxing news, David Price. I was seconds away from being Anthony Joshua's mandatory challenger. Not really, says Mohamed Mia. He's nominated him for Bellew of the Week. Callum Neal has nominated Matt Noon for celebrating getting his tickets to the Anthony Joshua fight. Just need to order a turtleneck now for Eddie Hearn's Barmy Army, says Matt Noon. The cult is deep. We had a question at the top of the show from Danny Young regarding Gareth A. Davis. A. Davis made a bit of a balls up this week by saying that the winner of Chisora Takam were the clear challenger to either Joshua or Wilder if they were to ever fight. So I think Mr. A. Davis actually got that one wrong. He actually meant the winner of White against Parker. Chad Hogan has nominated Josh Prescott for talking about McDonnell against Inoue. Journo Lee said, tickets purchased for Anthony Joshua at Wembley Stadium. Absolutely cannot wait. First ever live fight. Practicing my rendition of Sweet Caroline now at Eddie Hearn. Kevin Watson and Boxing Boy nominated him for that. Excuse me. Darren Cope has nominated Carl Froch. He's coming along to a bar in Nottingham to give a speech, apparently. Go and get your tickets, everybody. John Smith says if the fighters don't get paid well for pay-per-view, we'd have no fights to watch. Chad Hogan has nominated him for that. Good old Mr. John Smith. Lukey Boxing as well. I know that Chad is a big fan of Lukey Boxing. We're going to have one coming up from him very shortly. Andy, good one from you here, actually.
Yeah.
Peter Quillin was named as the PBC Fighter of the Week, and Don McNamara wasn't too happy about this.
Oh, he was losing his shit, wasn't he? What did he say again?
I don't think it's actually repeatable, and that's saying something for us, lads.
Plus, if Twitter Sting's listening as well, and that if he's listening to his taxi as well, you know, customers won't be too happy. Like, it was pretty brutal stuff, but he was quite right. I mean, Quillen hasn't. When did he Quillen last fight?
I don't know.
Exactly. There you go. Fighter of the week. That was just last week or something like that, wasn't it?
I think it was. He's coming back next week anyway, so we'll be able to watch him in action again, hopefully.
Can't wait, mate.
White chocolate. Right, Coach Kev had been nominated from Boxing Boy. It was more Matchroom Love from Coach Kev. LL Cool K, Kurt Ward, formerly of this pod, trying to get him back on, everybody. He won't come. He's nominated Stuart. Pay-per-views are getting better, not worse, unless your pre-AJ memory is a little foggy, says Stuart. El Campeon has nominated JD Sports for their official videos that they're putting up. Mikey Hugh has nominated Johnny Nelson. He's just compared Dillian White to Joe Frazier, says Mikey. Elliot Foster with... That's a good front runner so far, Andy. There's plenty more to come.
Oh, what? Joe Frazier. Fucking Jesus Christ. Rob, where's Rob Kelly?
I'm
Rob,
here, dude.
come on, help me out. For fuck's sake, help me out.
Joe Frazier. Holy
Could you
shit.
imagine, Rob, what Joe Frazier would have done to them boys last night?
Marvis Fraser might have done something to them.
He certainly would. Chad Hogan is nominated Foz, Freelance Foz, for bigging up the Fight Disciples podcast, whatever that is. Lukey Boxing, as I said, was nominated from Brian as well. Mikey Garcia is the best fighter since Salvador Sanchez, the best Mexican fighter since Salvador Sanchez, in my opinion, says Lukey. Do you agree?
That's another nomination.
Mr. Chavez might have something to say about that, boys. Mr. Chavez.
Very high standards to live up to. Like, he is very, very good, Mikey Garcia. He is excellent.
Yeah, he is good, but he's no Sanchez levels yet. Like.
Conor Ben has been nominated from Ryan Connor. I am the Arturo Gatti of English boxing, he said at an open workout. Conor Ben said he was the Arturo Gatti of English boxing.
Oh, my God.
Maybe current version.
See, the only thing is, at least Arturo Gatti had an amateur career.
That's true.
He went to the Olympics, did they know, for Canada, I think?
Did he actually go to the Olympics? Was that 88, was it?
I'm sure he represented Canada. Was that what was the 8 Olympics? What was that? Seoul?
88 was Seoul. That was the one Roy Jones got jobbed in, wasn't it?
I need to check that. I'm sure he might have represented Canada.
That was when Regilo Turo KO'd Kelsey Banks from the US team. Banks was one of the highest touted.
The Dutch guy. He was super featherweight champion in WBO, didn't he? Yeah. He absolutely cleaned his clock in the first round. Like, but Banks was the one they were touting. There was going to be the big star from that team, him and Jones. Like, and he's kind of. I think he went on to be a pro, but did nothing after that. Like, was a very good fighter, but he just got clipped. Like, that was a great incident in that Olympics. There was a lot to talk about in '88.
Ended up in the bin, Rob, with the likes of Ricardo Williams and Panchito Bajada.
92 Olympics Jason Chuck was saying Gatti went to.
Or was it Barcelona, the one De La Hoya won, yeah?
Aye.
Right, okay. Fair enough. Thanks, Chuckwe. Chat Stalwart. Chad Hogan is nominated Talk Sport. They're still advertising that Brook is fighting Cook. Mark Kriegel. Mikey Garcia would be what Oscar De La Hoya once was, the transcendent Mexican-American star. Why isn't he? Well, he is the Belly of the Week nomination. Another one from Brian King. Also, Danny.
See that Kriegel, by the way. He's bit by bit gradually fucking irritating me. He's really starting to annoy me. I actually watched that card last night, that ESPN card with the fucking sound off. He is awful.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the Diaz fight, wasn't it?
I agree with that, man. He was pausing on another one there a while back as well, wasn't it? Was it the Lomachenko?
Linares
one. Absolute poison.
Mm-hmm. He's come in to do the Teddy Atlas role, hasn't he?
He doesn't know enough about the fights. You always find with commentators that do that narrative setting, like they don't really know what's going on in the ring. Like,
if that's the criteria, Rob, there's a space for me on the microphone.
We lord it over there, man. We just need a big break in the States. Someday someone's going to see the vision. We'll be on ESPN, our own show, the whole lot of us.
Could you imagine? We'd be like Chuck.
Take part. We're here to take over.
It'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. Just think about it, right? Tommy would last like a week or something like that, right?
Tommy would have his own Sirius XM show where he could say what he wanted after about 2 weeks. Like, he'd leave us. Like,
Tommy would last a week, right? Rob Kelly would probably get probably forced to resign after the fucking first shag, right? I would be forced to step in and kind of steer the ship for a couple of weeks till I burnt out, and I was like, oh, fuck this pish, go away at the pub. And then Steve will need to come in eventually and just pull the fucking flames, just pull the Phoenix right out of the flames. You know? So that's it.
cult following we have over there.
Man, what a party it would be, boys. Oh, fuck me.
Hey, boys, you've seen the comments underneath the IFL videos. Imagine what the comments would be like over there if we were on ESPN.
Oh,
man.
Oh,
Any
man.
worse than that, them two Egypts they had there for years. What's Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless talk of boxing, like absolute pantomime bullshit.
Just think all the bitches, man, think the knickers off and throwing it at me because of my Scottish accent. It'd be amazing. Pick them up and sniffing them and throwing them back and that.
All right, that's it. We're off the air straight away.
Right, let's get back on it, boys. Then, Mark Kriegel has been nominated. Albert Baker has nominated the PBC or Barclays Centre, I think it was. They were advertising the Danny Garcia versus Sean Porter fight, and they put a picture of Zab Judah up instead. Lukey Boxing, another nomination for him. Javonta Davis has a lot of the same traits as Mike Tyson. Yeah, I'm sure he does. In and out of the ring, probably closest I have seen since Iron Mike. Not sure that's a good thing, to be honest, Lukey. Chad Hogan has nominated these Fight Disciples as well. They're gaining in prevalence. Danny Young has nominated Paul Loudon. Sorry. Danny Young has nominated Darren Goff on Talk Sport. Darren Goff said, really impressed with the undercard, talking about White versus Parker. Paul Loudon endorsed Danny's nomination. Who are we on again? Joe Frazier, Johnny Nelson, that was also nominated by Chad. Kaiser Cobra has nominated El Cheesy. Danny Robson has nominated Sunsport. They said Joseph Parker vows to knock out Deontay Wilder in tomorrow's O2 showdown and set up an AJ rematch. Cuntos, says Danny Robson. Derek Cooper, I believe it is, or Terry has nominated Porky Russ, talking boxing, but then talking about Frank Smith being engaged to Emily Eubank and going mad. Liam Jordan has nominated his shopkeeper for being a casual. UKIP Paul. Liam Jordan, Andy, said, I went to my casual shopkeeper who said to me, who's this up-and-coming fighter called Ward who quit boxing to avoid Bellew? I put my shopping down and walked out, says Liam. Boycott that shop.
Oh, my God.
That's the best thing I've heard all weekend.
Say that again in full. Say it again in full, Steve.
He says, the casual shopkeeper said to me, who's this up-and-coming fighter called Ward who quit boxing to avoid Bellew? I put my shopping down and walked out, said Liam.
Right, you did right.
Oh, that's Jesus fuck.
Yeah, he's an up-and-coming guy. He's a contender. He could be a contender. That guy, that Ward. If it wasn't for Bellew scaring him out of the ring.
Jesus fuck! I've got tears coming out my eyes, man.
You get visions of Ward like hearing the old intro music for Bellew of the Week. And just start running like
the Cannibal Holocaust music.
Yeah. He just starts jetting like he's like, that's it. No.
Kevin should definitely be legit, right? Go back to the shop, right? Take photographs. You standing outside telling them to boycott the fucking shop because he's a fucking casual.
I don't know.
Boycott that shop. Liam, you need to tweet us. Liam, tweet us and tell us who this guy is. Liam Jordan 29. Liam, we need to know who this casual is. Right. Simon Says Ware was nominated Ed Draper for talking about Dillian White. Bellew of the Week for Anthony Fowler for announcing himself as a serious world championship contender. Plenty of Fowler ones, Andy. I think I was going back to the guy who said that Fowler was going to unify divisions. You said must be as a race relations officer because after boxing, because I don't see him in the ring.
Fowler. Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting career. I've not seen this unifying division, so I'm still thinking about that last fucking. It's amazing. It's fucking amazing. Fowler, he's average, man. That's all I can say.
Could you imagine what Andrew Ward would have done to Tony Bellew as well? Like,
oh no, come on, Rob, come on. Fucking Tony smashed his jaw at the weigh-in. Clearly fucking ducking him.
That's it. We get the sequel. Oh man, it would have been great. I would have loved that. Like, instead of Hey2, Bellew and Ward in England, like, it would have been great. Like,
Bellew's just straight on salesman mode these days, man. He's only got one more fight. His wife's telling him to retire, or she's pushing for him to retire.
He's even looking for White, I think, isn't he? He's mentioned Dillian White a couple of times, like.
Nah, listen, I would take the Usyk fight. I mean, there's more money in that fight. He doesn't. White's it's a heavy night's work. Like,
Usyk's gonna be just as heavy. Jesus.
I know, but he's
yeah, it's not the same risk.
It's not the same power, really. You know.
Yeah, it should definitely. But like, yeah. Anyway, yeah, Bellew.
Joe Fournier has been nominated. This is quite a strange story. Fournier put up a picture of him in Miami Beach, Florida, with a WBA international title, I think it was, insinuating that he'd won this title. According to the WBA rankings, he's at number 10, and he also won this title according to them, but he hasn't fought since 2016. There's no recognition of this fight having taken place, and he's supposed to be banned for PEDs. Also, Joshua Buatsi won this very same title last night against his opponent. So quite what is going on with this Fournier? This mystery WBA international title. And WBA must be in on it, though, Andy, because they've got him down as the champion on their website.
Have they really?
Yeah.
I thought they might have just fucking bought that on, like, fucking...
I don't know where he's... No, don't know what's going on. If anybody can enlighten me, it's such a strange scenario. I have a guy on Twitter messages me backwards and forwards. He's always in the know about these things, and he brought it to my attention, so shout out to him. Right, anyway, Brian Scott has nominated Conor Benn. Not only did he say he was going to fight like Arturo Gatti, but apparently he said, I'm going to fight like Sugar Ray Leonard tonight. So there you go. Also, Bellew of the Week nomination for Richard Swig for Chris Eubanks' legal team. Apparently they have initiated libel proceedings against Claire Geary, the former Mrs. Eubank, over a Daily Mail story entitled "How I Fell for the Monocled Moron." According to Private Eye, the statements from the piece that English and his lawyers consider defamatory include the accusation that he has psychological abnormalities. Eubank also thinks it's defamatory that Miss Geary described him as being excessively conceited or vain, excessively attention-seeking, and that he prances, preens, spouts poetry, and has madcap business ideas. I look forward to the counsel for the defence, says Richard Swig, opening their remarks by linking to the latest IFL interview, and the judge immediately declaring case dismissed.
Fucking story. Listen, all she's going to do is call fucking his first wife, because she said the same thing. Read fucking Ben, what's it, the Ben Eubank book. Fucking Eubank would come home like 2 o'clock in the morning. Your wife's sleeping. You'd wake her up. You sit in the corner and read her fucking poetry out of a fucking book. What a weirdo! Eubank would actually quit interviews, go away for 5 minutes, read a dictionary, come back and use that fucking same word. He just learned literally 5 minutes ago. He was finding an opening, but he's opening to find it and put it in the sentence. The guy is a fucking weirdo. He walked in for the top fucking tier, the Grand Hotel in Brighton, in his fucking underpants.
Andy, don't you come back from a night on the lash and sit in the corner and give your missus like a poetry reading or something?
Yes, he does. He's all over that. Him. He loves a good poetry session.
Oh, aye, poetry, aye. Fucking, she's suffering with terrible burns after I'm finished with her anyway. Put it up.
Poetry and motion, baby. That's the only poetry.
She sees my hair and look at Beastie by the way she fucking does. She runs like fuck, I'll tell you.
We're therefore off the air on the ESPN, man.
Oh man, this is like the post-fight pause. This is class. Whenever Andy's missus goes away, man, he hits the stuff hard. This is premier fucking stuff you get in here, boys. Never mind Patreon. This is the real deal you're getting tonight off Andy. Right, Zico has nominated John Hartson. Could listen to Tony Bellew all day. He says talks sense, great knowledge. Or he said could listen to Tony Bellew, maybe Sonny Liston, I don't know. The whole poll has been nominated from Zico. He's talking about the Conor Benn poll. How far can Conor Benn go, says Editing King. Oh, some of the replies were absolute gold dust. Taylor has nominated Conor Benn for his Ali Shuffle. He's lucky that it wasn't scored as a knockdown. Ross Giles has nominated Joshua Buatsi in seconds out boxing. Tells Andre Ward to stay away after eye-catching win. What else have we got? Let's have a look. Quite a few here. Oh, sorry about this, everybody. Jordan Lee has been nominated. I got so many of them this week. Babs has nominated Nathan Prince. Oh, yeah, I did get this one, Michael McElwee, sorry. Nathan Prince, 29th of July, is now known as Eddie Hearn Day, 1 day a year, fella. You deserve it, Ed. Now, if this trends, how about 2 tickets to a show of your choice? What about this then, guys? 29th of July is now Eddie Hearn Day because of the great pay-per-view that he put on.
Well, as long as we got a day off at least, then I'll be happy enough.
Day off pay-per-view. What about this one then? Toby Hines sent me this in earlier from the BBC. The BBC were reporting on the Lee McAllister Danny Williams fight, and the first paragraph is definitely Bellew of the Week worthy. The BBC wrote, Scottish fighter Lee McAllister has become the first lightweight champion to win a heavyweight world title after beating Danny Williams into retirement. The first lightweight champion to win a heavyweight world title. So he's won the Bieber heavyweight world title, Andy, and he's into Scottish boxing history. TBA.
Oh man, Ken Buchanan, step aside.
And also, I think this is the final one. I've got one of the final ones. Ben Thorns has nominated Fat Fuck Mickey Quinn on TalkSport for telling Eddie Hearn that it was the best £20 he's ever spent. And finally, I don't know who this was, but they've nominated the Gaffer for saying it was worth the pay-per-view last night. And Robbie saying amazing pay-per-view, should consider charging more for these pay-per-views, £25 at least, Ed. Anything up to 50 in my opinion. That's all the ones that I've got. Any, Ozzy, I believe you want to nominate one.
Oh yeah, I've got a couple actually. One of them was going to be Conor Benn falling over in the ring trying to do the shuffle, and one for Danny Flexen, who claimed to have a world exclusive about Joe Joyce and Abel Sanchez when the news was actually revealed on Sunday by myself. Just I think 48 hours before Flexen revealed it, so. He tried to say it was still a world exclusive, but no, that was wrong. But Conor Benn is the main option. It'll be. I'm torn between him and the guy who wants Eddie Hearn Day. That's just insane.
That's banter years, by the
way. Imagine tweeting a bloke you've never met going, basically, you should have a public holiday named after you after a good pay-per-view.
This is Nathan Prinz, Aussie. Nathan Prinz, 89. Babs and Michael McElway nominated this gentleman.
Yeah, well, fuck it. Nathan Prinz, he's definitely Bellew of the Week. He's up there with the Benson Award. He might have to get a little picture of himself on this award like Benson did. That's that bad of a shout.
Any nominations from you, Rob? If not, who are you going for?
Realistically, I think this Danny Williams thing has to be in there, doesn't it? Like somewhere, like even though the shopkeeper one is good, but he's an unnamed shopkeeper. So I think the Danny Williams thing is bad for boxing. Like it's horrific. Hate it. Like I don't know, just an absolute shambles. Like, but there was a lot of pretty good ones this week. Like
History maker, Rob, the first lightweight going up, winning the heavyweight world title. Hashtag history maker.
Yeah, I mean it's regular Stanley Ketchel shit right there. That is like.
What was Mr. Chavez's comment again? And the one before that one, Mr. Chavez's comments.
Chavez? Who was that? Which Chavez are you on about, Andy?
It was one of the earlier ones. It wasn't like the fighters. It was some sort of reporter.
God, I can't remember. I've got that many of them, to be honest.
Anyway, I've got one for David Price. I know he pulled out his fight recently and stuff, but he was an article released by Boxing Scene. I think it was Thursday. I think it was. He says here, I've said for a while that I would love to fight for a world title if I can get a shot. I'll be looking to find my form on Friday, and this game, especially heavyweight, you're only ever 2 or 3 wins away from something special.
Who said that? Pricey?
David Price.
That was a weird one with him, you know. He pulled out on the day of the fight with a back injury from an opponent anyway, so I just think they thought, oh, sack it off, and then pull out. So literally, really random.
Right, so who are you going for then, Andy?
The casual shopkeeper. That's fucking tremendous.
I'm so pleased that it's tickled you. It's made me laugh because of your reaction, Andy. So I'm going to go for the casual shopkeeper as well. Who are you going for, Ozzy?
No, I'm going with the guy who wants to give Eddie Hearn a public holiday for essentially doing his job.
That's Nathan Prinz, and Rob's going for the Lee McAllister. Lee McAllister, Danny. We'll give it to the shopkeeper. We'll have to find out more about this, Andy. Liam Jordan, 29. Liam, get in touch with me. Let us know about this shopkeeper. Get him on the call.
Well, I want you to go outside his shop and I want you to have a fucking placard and some sort of fucking petition. Do you know any of their shop?
Apparently, he has the inside scoop down there on some other big up and comers like Lomachenko. He's going to do something in the sport. So keep an eye out. You heard it here first.
We'll take your word for it. Right, let's get out of here then, boys. Congratulations, Mr. Casual Shopkeeper. Thank you to everybody who's jumped on with us tonight. Thank you to you, Andy Patterson, Ozzy Smith, Rob Kelly, here till the bitter end. Thanks to Adam Smitho Smith as well, and also Gabe Lewis. We had Craig Shuttleton on. We had Savannah Marshall on. Hamed jumped on as well. It's been a weird and wonderful show tonight. We've gone in all different types of places, but we've managed to come up for oxygen right at the end. We'll catch you all again next week, episode 285, coming in your ears. I've been Steve Wellings. All the best. Bye.